What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It's your host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today over on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. Thank you guys certainly so much for joining us today. We got some honorable mentions we're going to be diving into, some live viewer questions at the end of the show, and 6 incredible topics we're going to get into as Spider-Man 4 has officially found its director. We're going to go ahead and talk about upcoming rumors for Spider-Man 4 as well. We also got Green Lantern back in the news as we have an update in regards to the Lantern series. Denis Villeneuve is certainly talking about his upcoming Dune Messiah film and much more, guys. So sit back, relax, grab your coffee or juice, and enjoy and join us for another episode of A Plus Hero Report. And we'll see you on the other side. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of A Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news. It is I, your host, Adam Perez. We're back once again on a wonderful Sunday afternoon, joined by none other than our co-host, Stuart Branscombe. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you too. How are you doing today?
Excellent. Not too bad. I had a pretty productive 2 days in a row, if you will. Hung out with my little boy at a festival yesterday, which was pretty nice. His grandma invited us to one of their church festivals, which was really awesome. He seemed like he had a pretty good time. He's hanging out with his grandma again today, so it's given your boy some time to go live and do an A Plus Hero Report episode. So always happy about that. But it's been a good week, man. How about yourself?
Oh man, busy week. It's surprisingly 2 weeks in a row. Beetlejuice is still in really strong, and
Nice.
oh my gosh, the guests can be kind of a pain for this one.
Really?
Yeah, which surprised me too. I would have thought some of them were, the fun kind of Beetlejuice fans, but other of them were just very much like, you know what it is? I bet you it's because it drew in a lot of like pretentious theater crowds, because the Beetlejuice played in like there was a Beetlejuice musical, which was very good, by the way. So I wonder if like the fans of that went to go see Beetlejuice in theaters. But regardless, like oh my gosh, I've had to deal with some of the biggest a-holes like the last week working Beetlejuice, which really surprised me, because again, this was not the type of movie I would have expected a toxic fan base from. But apparently Beetlejuice has a toxic fan base, or maybe it's just at the draft house. I don't know. But regardless, I'm glad that it's finally going to be slowing down, because man, that wasn't fun.
Well, I guess Beetlejuice is never one to be known for having a filter and just kind of telling it as it is. So maybe he draws those people out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's like the people that watch The Boys and think that Homelander is meant to be the good guy.
No.
I bet you that's the crowd that I dealt with. It's the people who watch Beetlejuice and assume that Beetlejuice is the hero.
I still have not had the opportunity to check out Beetlejuice. I think the last movie I did see was Alien Romulus last week. I need to check my my AMC stubs list and see what's currently in theaters and what's to come soon. But we might talk about that here in just a second. But it's good to have you, man. Hopefully we have Indy here within the next several weeks. I'm still hoping that he gets things working for him. Hopefully he'll pop up in the comment section every now and then for us, but I definitely would like to try and have Indy back, so hopefully he'll be on his feet rather soon and able to certainly join us. But yeah, man, we got I just dropped last week's review for The Rings of Power. I did an episode review. I just dropped that yesterday or this morning. I can't remember. I did watch episode number 5 of The Rings of Power. Great episode. So I'm probably going to try and knock that out. If not today, then definitely tomorrow for you guys. I just had so much going on. My mom came into town. She was in town for like a week to visit her grandson and then her son. Also, I'm like second tier at this point now that she's got a grandchild. So that's really what kept me busy all week from being able to be on time with the Rings of Power stuff. But I am definitely going to try, and I think we got like 3 episodes left, so I'll do my best to be on time with these Rings of Power reviews. Have you had the opportunity to check out any of season 2 at all, Stuart, or no?
I did check out the first 2 episodes, I believe, when it premiered.
Oh
But
yeah,
I haven't been keeping up with it. I might actually try to binge the rest that I missed today.
yeah. Season I've been a really big fan of this season so far. I do think episode 3 was maybe a little bit on the slow side for me, but I thought overall it was a really good 3 episode debut to certainly say the least. But I'm really enjoying the direction of this season so far. But look, if you guys are following along with the Rings of Power season 2, let me know what you guys think of it so far in the comment section box below. Look, guys, also before we get into our honorable mentions that we're going to dive into here next, I do want to just let you guys all know. Look, if you like our content, if you continue to love our show, you come back on a weekly basis, do us a big favor, man. Hit that like button. It definitely does go a long way. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so yet. Feel free to share these videos, retweet this wherever you're certainly watching us from. Let everybody know A Plus Hero Report is currently live as we're highlighting your favorite franchises and fandoms this weekend to wrap up your weekend. And then let's give some shout outs to people that are joining us in our live chat today. As always, we got Enrique Perez. He says, just saw the final trailer for the DreamWorks animated film, The Wild Robot. Very cool. I think I saw maybe like the teaser of it. I don't think I've ever seen any other trailers for it. Just saw the official second trailer for the upcoming new Venom film. We'll probably dive into that shortly here also. Um, it's confirmed that the Wicked sequel, titled Wicked Part 2, has moved the release date to November 21st of 2025. There's supposed to be a sequel?
This is what made me super unenthusiastic about this movie. They're taking the musical and just splitting it into 2 movies, which I've seen the musical. It would not be hard to fit in one movie.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Like, so I
can that just fit into one movie? It feels like it's something that could fit into one movie.
It can, but the studio just wants their money.
Man, they're giving this like the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings treatment, right? Where it's like,
That's
oh, we got this
exactly what
book,
they're
we
doing.
can do it one movie, but why don't we just stretch it out into 2? So that's a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
Enrique says, finally, new trailer for Inside Out 2, which is coming to Disney Plus on September 22nd. Very nice. I definitely want to check it out. So appreciate the release date update. September 22nd for Inside Out 2. We got Ram Jam. What's up, Ram Jam? Good to see you, man. Appreciate you stopping by today. Blossom certainly in the house. Thank you so much, Blossom. Spider-Man 4, Holy Macaroni. I thought that was scrapped. No way. No way. We definitely going to talk about it today for you, Blossom. Get you up to date. MD. What's up, MD? Appreciate you certainly coming through for us today too, man. Stuart, you ready to get into some honorable mentions with me, man?
Hell yeah.
Let's go ahead and kick off our first segment. And we got our honorable mentions for you guys today. For those of you who are new to the channel, honorable mentions tend to be topics that we certainly felt you deserve to still know about that didn't quite necessarily make our top 6 to discuss in our main topics, but we definitely want to go ahead and shower you guys with some news. Stuart, I know you mentioned you didn't quite have an honorable mention, but since we were just talking about movies and you work at the movie theater, what are some movies that are currently in theaters or even coming soon to theaters within the next couple of weeks that people can keep an eye out for?
So a movie that is playing in very select theaters is called Casa Bonita. And what's cool about this movie is that it basically, for those of you who don't know, so the Casa Bonita restaurant, which is like, basically like just this huge Mexican restaurant that has just like, I've never been there personally, but I've just heard nothing but amazing things about it. And if it sounds familiar, it's because you've probably seen it in an episode of South Park, because there was this whole episode where Eric Hartman was super excited to go. And so, so that all being said, the place got shut down during 2020 during the pandemic, and Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the 2 creators of South Park, thought it would be fun to buy it, and so they did. So they bought it, reopened it, and that's what this documentary is about. It is a documentary about like what happens when 2 cartoon writers decide to open up their own restaurant, or I guess in this case reopen up an already existing restaurant, and the struggles that goes along with it. It's produced by the same people who did the movie 6 Days to Air, which is also a South Park documentary. about the process of making an episode with a 6 day deadline.
Oh, wow.
That alone is kind of what hooked me, because I absolutely love that documentary. But unfortunately, even though it was playing at the theater I work at, it was not listed on our website, so I haven't actually not had a chance to watch this movie yet. But it is definitely high on my list, and I recommend if it's playing in a theater somewhere near you. I'm sure it's definitely got to be worth a watch. Anytime you get to watch a documentary where Matt Stone and Trey Parker are just super stressed out. It's always hilarious.
I love it, man. Any other films that you know that are coming out here soon too?
Ooh, I know that next month, I think next month, we got another Terrifier movie coming out. It's
Oh,
either
okay.
I can't remember if it's October or if they are going with a Christmas theme for this one, so maybe it's December. All I know is that, like, what started as like a really low budget, like independent horror film, like spawned like a sequel that just like was just so over the top, to where I'm like, even I, as a dude who loves horror, and kind of like, okay, man, these death scenes are really dragging on. Can we like move on now? So I love the first one, thought the second one was okay. So I'll definitely be checking out Terrifier 3 when it comes out. Let me double check that release date though. Because I thought it is next month. Yeah. So coming October 10th. Definitely, if you like the first two, if you like kind of just, over the top, mean spirited gore fest horror slasher films, this is for you.
My girlfriend did just mention the Terrifier the other day. I'm a little bit under the weather right now. Believe it or not, my throat is killing me today. But it was even worse yesterday, and I was just kind of laying in bed, half unconscious, and she started talking to me about the Terrifier. I guess she's trying to get into her. Halloween is like her favorite holiday. So she's definitely getting into that mood even before October, about some horror films and whatnot. So she did mention that one to me. I've never seen any of the first two, but I do know they have a third one coming out. So I appreciate that heads up. We also got Transformers 1 is certainly set to drop also next week. That's the big movie that's certainly set to drop on the 20th, but you could probably find you some Thursday screenings for it. Some pretty positive first reactions coming out about Transformers 1 so far. So if you're looking forward to that Transformers film, you might be in luck, but that drops this week. So definitely go ahead and check out your show times and seating in your area for sure.
Definitely excited to see how this movie does in theaters.
Yeah, me too. I did read somewhere too that they are in the process of early script development on a sequel. If the first one does well, so it doesn't sound like they're super far ahead. I think they're kind of waiting to see what the reactions and what the reviews are going to be like for Transformers 1. But they definitely have an animated sequel on their mind for sure if it works.
Awesome.
A couple other quick honorable mentions. We're gonna kind of go through these real quick since we are looking forward to Agatha All Along this week. We got two big shows dropping this week. We got Agatha All Along in the MCU, along with The Penguin. They both drop, I think, on the same day, or at least maybe a couple days apart from each other. So should be interesting to see how this plays out. But we got some Agatha All Along character posters, as it looks like they're really taking inspirations from other films, if you will, and having some fun with it for some of these character posters and whatnot. Different themes, different genres. So it's kind of all coming together. But yeah, this drops September 18th on Disney Plus.
And then the day after the Penguin, on September 19th, is when the Penguin will premiere on Max.
So yeah, they're right behind each other. I love this Agatha All Along poster. This is probably my favorite out of all the ones that we've got. But yeah, guys, let us know your anticipation level for Agatha All Along. That's going to be dropping here this week. We also got ourselves. We didn't get
I love that poster because it looks like something straight from an 80s VHS horror film.
Yeah, it really does. I love it. We also got a new Tomb Raider poster here. The animated Netflix series is set to go ahead and drop October 10th. The trailers have been okay for me. I don't think I'm super over the moon anticipating this highly, but I'm probably something I'm gonna go ahead and try and check out when it drops. But Tomb Raider: The Legends of Lara Croft is set to. I think it's Haley Atwell. Is she the one doing the voice for Something tells me she might be the one doing the voice for Laura Croft in here. I could be wrong, but the Netflix series drops October 10th, so mark your calendar there. And while Stuart checks that out, I will go ahead and highlight a new season of Daryl Dixon, guys. Season 2. Every hero needs saving is the tagline for this season, as it's really the book of Carol. Carol's getting a huge emphasis this season. It looks like she's in search of Daryl Dixon himself, but Daryl Dixon, the book of Carol, season 2, set to go ahead and drop September 29th on AMC. I didn't check out the first season. I think out of all the spinoffs that we've had so far, Daryl Dixon, Dead City, and The Ones Who Live, I think The Ones Who Live are the only one that I watched with Rick and Michonne. But if you guys are checking out the Daryl Dixon series, let me know how you've been enjoying it or haven't been enjoying it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below.
How was The Ones Who Live?
I loved it, man. I loved it. I thought they did an incredible job for I think it was a 6-episode limited series run. I love the way that it ended. You know, if they never want to revisit Rick and Michonne again, I'm completely okay with it. Although I'm always up for more Rick and Michonne. I mean, if you can get what's her name, Denai and Andrew Lincoln back, man, they're just like the heart and soul of the entire franchise to me. And so writing wise, I thought they did a remarkable job handling it for sure.
All right. I mean, that show might be my excuse to get back into The Walking Dead then.
You know, I will say after there are elements to it that if you had not kept up with like The Walking Dead after the Negan stuff, you may be a little bit lost in regards to like some of the organizations and characters that are dropped, but it's nothing that I think like a good Google search for me couldn't help fill in some of the blanks. But it did make me want to go back and revisit The Walking Dead and finish it off after watching it. It really made me fall in love with that franchise again.
Yeah. Also, yeah, so Haley Atwell was the one voicing Tomb Raider in the animated movie.
Oh, so she is doing it? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a big Haley Atwell fan, so I might give it a shot just to show her some support. Also, 3 more real quick here. We got some New York City Comic-Con announcements headed our way. For those of you who don't know, New York Comic-Con is set to go ahead and drop this October. We've got a couple of panels to look forward to that I wanted to highlight. They will be having a Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim a panel. It's going to be hosted by the late night talk show host Stephen Colbert. He's quite the nerd himself. I don't want to say I didn't mistake him for a big Lord of the Rings fan, but he certainly might be. I feel like he's done other Lord of the Ring things before, whether that be on his show or at other Comic-Cons. But Stephen Colbert will, in fact, be the one hosting the War of Rohirrim panel at New York Comic-Con. So expect news out of that. And then James Gunn is also going to be at New York Comic-Con panel for Creature Commandos. Not only is he going to be giving new details of Creature Commandos, but he's also going to it says we'll fill you all in on the details of our monster army and the seeds of the DCU. So he may be talking a little bit more about chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, and really the placement of Creature Commandos as well. So James Gunn talking about the DCU along with the War of Rohirrim, getting some panels. So just some things to look forward to this October for New York Comic-Con.
Definitely looking forward to hear what James Gunn has to say to hype us up for his upcoming, universe. So wait, is it happening? Is New York Comic-Con happening before Creature Commandos premieres on Max?
Yeah, Creature Commandos, I think, drops in December 5th, if I'm not mistaken. And New York Comic-Con will be in October. I want to say like the 18th and 19th or something like that. I could be mistaken on the dates, but it's definitely like mid to late October for New York Comic-Con this year.
I wonder if they'll like premiere the first episode there.
Ooh, that would be pretty cool. I think that'd be smart, honestly, to get people talking leading into October.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And then also real quick, Lando is back in the news. I know that there were some so the previous showrunner for Lando. When Lando was set to be a series, wind up getting removed from the project really early this year. There were reports that he had sat down for an interview maybe a month or two ago and talked about the idea of the Lando series being canceled. And some people kind of ran with that, with the idea that we're not getting ourselves a Lando project anymore. But since then, they have mentioned that Donald Glover is actually the one now in charge of the Lando, not series, but it's being transformed into a movie. That's right. Glover is currently set to develop a movie featuring Lando, though that project doesn't have a confirmed release date yet. He recently sat down with the Wall Street Journal, and when he was asked what he wanted to accomplish with Lando, this is what Glover said. He says, "I just want it to be fun. As a Star Wars fan myself, I think it's important that there just needs to be more fun being had. It's very hard to have fun right now. It's tough because there are very serious things happening, and those are the only things that connect us, weirdly. So I get why things are serious. But part of the human experience, I believe, is we have a responsibility to have enjoyment. And I just feel like we're lacking in that department." He also continues, "Star Wars, I love it, but sometimes it be super serious. Sometimes it be way too serious. Everything that has to do with the Skywalkers is so serious. Lando, I think the best part of him is he's a scoundrel, and I feel like people can relate to that. He's probably like, man, this war is whack, and I need money," which I feel everyone can relate to. So I just want it to be fun. So it definitely does seem as though Donald Glover certainly is still working on his Lando series, or Lando movie, I should say. When we'll get an update as far as like a release date, who certainly knows, but it feels very much like it's on Donald Glover's time at this point. It wouldn't surprise me if that's his next project, to be honest with you, though. Now that he's wrapped up Atlanta, he just dropped his Childish Gambino CD also. So I would assume that his Lando project would certainly be next, but it seems like it's still very much alive, Stuart.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about this in hella long, so I was just
Yeah, it's
kind
been
of
a while.
under the assumption that like it was kind of dead like a lot of other Star Wars projects. But yeah, no, if and when this now movie comes out, I'll definitely be checking it out cuz I did really like his portrayal of Lando in the solo Star Wars story. Not as much as D Williams, crap, I forgot his first name. Oh yeah, Billy D. Williams. But still, you know, I like that he kind of did his own take on it. He didn't try to like copy him. He just tried to kind of give it his own like kind of flair, and I think it worked
Yeah.
really well. So I definitely look forward to kind of like seeing that like expand more, and hopefully we get Solo in it as well.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope this. While I don't necessarily consider this like a sequel to Solo, I wouldn't mind if it's like a quasi sequel in the sense that maybe some of these characters pop up, maybe some leftover storylines get sort of carried over. There was a great Lando comic series from Marvel Comics. I think it was like a limited series of like 5 or 6 issues where Lando winds up. I don't know if he purchases a ship or if he steals a ship, and come to find out that it belongs to Emperor Palpatine.
Oh,
And that and that it's got some sort of dark, like some Sith relics on it, and they start hunting down Lando to acquire the ship, sort of thing. So, look, there's content out there if they want to have some fun with it. But I do hope that we get this because I do think out of all the, I don't want to say out of all the Disney stuff that they've done for Lucasfilm, I feel like Lando, at least Donald Glover playing Lando, is one of the bright spots of it for sure that people can be drawn to. But we'll see. We'll see.
yep.
And then lastly, Stuart, we got Venom 3, The Last Dance. We wind up getting ourselves a brand new trailer here this week. Have you checked out this? I would assume this is the final trailer. Have you checked out this trailer yet?
I did indeed.
You did? Okay, cool. I have not seen it. So I'm going to check it out right now for the first time. So let me go ahead and pull this up here for us. If the volume is too loud, let me know, Stu, okay?
Sounds good.
Do we have it up here? Okay, cool. And let's go.
Eddie, I'm with you to the end.
This is your captain speaking. If you look out to your left, you'll see a beautiful view of the Grand Canyon.
Told you we could fly.
Oh, they're so close, dude!
That does look good visually.
Mm-hmm. I love the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Crush.
Hold on.
Crush.
That must be pretty cool to have a symbiote that keeps you from dying in any situation you're in.
Yeah. Hey, look, he can use this as a free excuse to go skydiving.
Right?
My owner has found us.
Oh, that's cool.
Who sent that thing?
Wow.
My creator.
Of course.
Ooh. Is that his creator? Is that Null?
The symbiotes didn't come here by accident. They were running.
From what?
Ooh.
His name then?
Null.
We have something he needs.
Damn.
As long as Venom lives, everything will end.
What are we doing?
We need a disguise.
Hey, man.
Whoa.
Oh.
Why do you keep knocking people out? What is wrong with you?
Sorry. We've come a long way, you and me.
Fuck, a friendship montage.
This world can survive if you stay together.
But I need him.
That's so sick. Oh my god.
There we are.
There comes a time in every man's life where you have to make a sacrifice.
Eddie, I'm with you to the end.
No, this is all the money that we have.
What is this feeling? It's like it's like all of my problems have gone away. No,
You broke me foot.
Eddie, I need more money.
Yeah, that's how the casino feels like sometimes, bro. You know?
Yeah, the electronic ones can be quite addicting. The vibe I get, man, is that this is like an action buddy road trip movie, buddy road trip comedy.
Yeah, I definitely get the vibes from it, and I've been a big fan of both these trailers that I've seen so far. This is honestly the first Venom movie that I've seen trailers for that I'm like, yes, like I'm completely on board. Like, give me more. The soundtrack I thought in here was great too. Definitely bringing in those friendship vibes for sure. We're definitely getting the friendship montage in this film for sure. I'm not a really big fan on some of the humor sometimes it works for me, but I thought Venom 2 was just a little bit too over the top for me, so I hope they reel it back in a little bit. But I do love the sense of humor. The special effects I think look as good as they've ever looked from a Venom film in here too, and I'm really interested to learn more about Null, as we do see a glimpse of him, the creator of the symbiotes. I love just the world, the throne that he sits on. Whether or not he actually makes an appearance on Earth, that I certainly don't know. Like, if he follows some of these symbiotes here to Earth, we'll definitely have to see. But the fact that he's playing a bigger role in this is pretty fascinating. But I'm on board, man. If this is truly the last of the Venom trilogy, I'll definitely check this one out in theaters, though.
It'd be weird if he wasn't in it because, yeah, if you're gonna
It's a Sony movie, though, Stuart.
It is, but I mean, at the same time, if you're going to build this up as your final movie and then hint at Null and then not bring him in, that would be kind of a weird, like, why? Why even bring him up to begin with then, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I'm kind of curious who they even cast to be him. I don't think that they've made any casting announcements for that gentleman yet, but we'll see. We'll see how involved Null certainly is. But good second impression here for Venom: The Last Dance. This drops. Do they not have a? I think it's in October, isn't it, Stuart? I'm not sure what the release date is of that one.
Yeah, sometime soon. But yeah, because for me, I think like both Venom 1 and 2 were, just okay films. Like, I definitely enjoyed watching them, but I have not rewatched either of them since I watched them the first time in theaters. And, looking at this trailer, it might be. I mean, I don't know. I get the vibe that it looks like it's going to be a little bit better, but we'll have to wait and see. But you know what? Even if it isn't better than the first two movies, even if it's just as good as the first two movies, I'll be satisfied. I'll have gotten exactly what I wanted out of it. Also,
Nice.
yeah, the release date is October 25th.
Okay, nice. But yeah, guys, mark your calendars for Venom: The Last Dance. And with that, Stuart, man, let's get into some main topics today, baby. You ready to go ahead and tackle this with me?
Always.
We got 6 incredible topics that we're going to dive into. And first, as you guys saw at the top of our thumbnail here, our main story is going to be Spider-Man 4 finding itself a director, along with some new rumors that are beginning to emerge here. We've been quietly waiting for some updates on Spider-Man 4. We do know that they have been planning on going into development with this. The last time I think we highlighted this, Stuart, we had ourselves a couple of comments from Tom Holland sometime last year in the sense of trying to figure out what is this script going to be? Like, what's the direction in which they're going to take it? Is it going to be a street level story? We had heard rumors that Sony was really pushing for the idea of a multiverse story. And Tom just seemed very much sort of up in the air, just kind of thankful that he's even getting this opportunity to play this character and just kind of working closely with Sony and Marvel to bring the next installment to the big screen. We had also been hearing a ton of rumors and speculation as to like who could potentially even direct Spider-Man 4, with John Watts leaving to go ahead and join the Star Wars franchise doing Skeleton Key. It's left an opening for a brand new director to certainly come on board. There were rumors, I think, at some point in time of even somebody like a Sam Raimi taking over and returning for Spider-Man, but that seems to have completely been diminished here, as this week we have official news as to who the new director is certainly going to be. And Stuart, it is none other than our favorite Shang-Chi director in Destin Daniel Cretton. That's right. Destin Daniel Cretton has, in fact, been in talks to direct Spider-Man 4. I will say, before we get into the article, Marvel Studios must be really impressed with this guy. Not only do we get ourselves a really enjoyable sort of Shang-Chi movie for him, but he was also attached to do the whoops, we got an ad. He was also attached to do the Wonder Man series that I believe has officially wrapped production. So we're certainly looking forward to that. And he, as far as I know, he's still attached to Shang-Chi 2. But we have no word on this sequel. But Marvel Studios seems to be keeping this guy sort of close to the vest, in the sense of, we really love your work, and this is how we're going to reward you. And I think this is probably as big of a reward as Destin Daniel could get. Wouldn't you say, Stuart? A little bit of an upgrade from Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah, got go from a superhero that like not a lot of people were super familiar with, and now you're going to Spider-Man, and I think this is kind of a perfect choice because the guy showed that he can do some really incredible fight scenes, and I think that if we are going to go, which I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're doing this, if we are going to go ground level, in terms of story when it comes to Spider-Man, I think you need someone who can like choreograph some really good fight scenes like on the ground level, and still be able to keep the audience engaged.
So let's get into this article here. Hollywood Reporter, Spider-Man 4, Destin Daniel Cretton in talks to direct. This is an exclusive. Says Destin Daniel Cretton is doing whatever a spider can. The filmmaker behind Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is in talks to sign on to direct Spider-Man 4. The move brings an end to the speculation as to who would spin the web for one of the biggest franchises in Hollywood. Cretton will bring fresh blood to this iteration of Spider-Man, which stars Tom Holland and is a co-production between two separate studios, Sony and Disney-owned Marvel Studios, and it will make him the fourth director to take on a Spider-Man solo feature. He brings up John Watts, Mark Webb, and Sam Raimi before him. Sony and Marvel had no comment. The Holland Spider-Man movies grew into a $1 billion franchise with Spider-Man No Way Out, enticing pandemic-weary audiences out of their homes and grossing almost $2 billion. Something not to sneeze at. Chris McKenna and Eric Summers are back on script duties. Sources say that Spider-Man 4 is running, not crawling, full steam ahead and will shoot early next year. It is unclear what the story will be. That memory wiped, including those closest to him, including MJ, who no longer know who Peter Parker is. Back in June of last year, Tom Holland told us that the first few meetings were about. Why would we do this again? And I think we found the reason why. So it looks like back in June they were discussing the script and what the reasons were behind doing a Spider-Man 4 in the first place. I also do want to jump on board some new rumors too, Stuart, to go along with the direction in which this film could potentially be. Again, take these with a grain of salt. I feel like even though the article does say, hey, they're full steam ahead. They're doing their best to try and start doing this movie as quickly as possible. I still want to go ahead and emphasize the idea that we really don't know what this script is going to be. So let's go ahead and dive into this, shall we? Because, to be frank with you, Stuart, I don't even necessarily know the direction in which the MCU is certainly going to go. Now that we got our Secret Wars, I had been hearing some things about them potentially doing something like a battle world, sticking Spider-Man 4 in between these two Avenger films and sort of doing a Spider-Man 4 in like a completely different alternate universe or whatever the case may be, building upon the multiverse saga. So let's go ahead and dive into this Spider-Man 4 rumors. So it says new rumors claim to reveal several villains considered for now postponed street level story. So it looks like they might have gone a different route. So let's see here. It says original plans call for Spider-Man 4 to be a street level story revolving around Peter Parker and Daredevil teaming up to battle Mayor Wilson Fisk. Ant-Man was expected to factor into the story, and the movie was eyeing a 2025 release until last year's strike caused chaos in Hollywood. Now the movie is expected to swing into theaters in 2026, smack dab between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars.
Let me just say that team up sounds freaking amazing. Ant-Man, Spider-Man, and Daredevil, because you got Daredevil, the no-nonsense one. You got kind of Spider-Man, who's kind of in that perfect in-between at the moment. Like, he's definitely a dude that will tell jokes to relieve pressure and all that kind of stuff, but he's also in a really dark place in his life where, he doesn't really, he's not kind of the same cheery guy that we knew from the previous movies. And then you got Ant-Man, who's just goofy completely. You got Paul, he's basically just Paul Rudd. And so I just think that the chemistry between the three of them would have been perfect. And I've never been so disappointed to find out we're not getting a film that I didn't hear about until just now.
Tom Holland's Peter Parker will supposedly be the former's lead character, so a simple street level is no longer going to work, especially if Doomsday ends with the destruction of Earth 616 and the creation of a new battle world like reality. Yesterday, Cosmic Circus reported, and again, this is why we're taking this with a grain of salt. I'm not too familiar with Cosmic Circus's sort of how well a lot of their speculation and rumors have certainly panned out. Yesterday, they reported that the plan is for Spider-Man 4 to revolve around Peter and Tom Hardy's Venom teaming up to battle Null, the god of symbiotes, as he looks to envelop the multiverse in darkness. The new site also since shared new details of what Marvel Studios was considering for a movie that once looked to be a setup to be a sequel to Born Again, which also is no longer in the works following the creative overhaul and the fact that season 2 won't begin production until later next year. Apparently, multiple villains were being considered for Spider-Man 4, including the Magi, Mr. Negative, Spencer Smythe, the Scorpion, and Prowler. Interestingly, it said Marvel still intends to tell this story, but we may wait a bit longer. So it looks as though, Stuart, according to rumors, again, if you want to take this, I always recommend taking this with a grain of salt. They're emphasizing the idea here that it was originally meant to be street level, where you've got the Daredevil and Spider-Man set to go ahead and take on Mayor Wilson Fisk. I do find it fascinating, though, that they even also mentioned, like, even though that was the premise, Ant-Man was expected to be a factor in the story. It's also emphasizing that apparently multiple villains were being considered for Spider-Man 4, and Marvel still intends to tell this story. So you're telling me we were supposed to have not only Mayor Fisk, but also Magia, Mr. Negative, Spencer Smythe, the Scorpion, and Prowler? That seems like a little bit too much. That already seems a little bit too all over the place for a Spider-Man 3 concept, a Spider-Man 4 concept. But now it seems as though they're not going along with that street level story and possibly doing a multiverse story where it's going to be Peter and Tom Hardy's Venom teaming up to battle Null, who we literally just saw in the Venom 3 trailer, as he's the god of symbiotes, as he's looking to envelop the multiverse. What are you believing here, Stuart? Like, when you hear this, like, this feels a little bit all over the place. There's a part of me that wants to root for this street level story to certainly still be in place, but Wilson Fisk and all these other villains, it feels like people are just throwing things to the wall and hope that something sticks in regards to speculation and rumors. Do you think there could be something to it, though, in regards to the multiverse story that we might be getting?
Yeah, I think, and this isn't because like I trust the source of where this came from, but I think just based on the movies we've had and the movies that are going to be coming out and the time in which the Spider-Man 4 movie is going to be getting released, I think the idea of them having a Spider-Man movie where he teams up with Venom in order to fight Null, especially like we were just saying this when we were watching the trailer, like, is Null actually going to be in the movie, or are they just name dropping him? And my thought is, if it's Venom's final movie, why wouldn't they put him in the movie? And if he's not actually showing up in the movie, this might be the reason why, because they're saving him for a Spider-Man Venom team up movie to take him down. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. Again, it's not the direction I would go if I was, in charge of the Spider-Man franchise, but I can see, like, from a studio point of view, of why that would sound good on paper, especially if it's going on between two studios, because that Sony also has to make sure that they're approving it as well as Marvel Studios. So I think it kind of makes sense. The one thing that kind of makes me think that it may not happen is that, again, Sony being behind it, I highly doubt I highly doubt they're the kind of studio that knows how to plan ahead. So if that is what's going on, if they're using Venom 3 to set up a Spider-Man Venom team up movie later on, then wow, Sony has done so much more work in the last couple of weeks than they have like their entire how long have they been trying to build a cinematic universe for Spider-Man?
Yeah, it's taking them a minute to get to this point of kind of planning ahead if this certainly works out. Look, I don't know how I feel about this, Stuart. I really don't. There's a part of me that really wanted to see a more street level story. We already have a Spider-Man movie within the multiverse saga. The idea that we're going to get 2 Spider-Man movies dealing with the multiverse, I feel like personally for me is a little bit too much. And I only say that for two reasons. One, when I watch the Venom trailer, the first Venom trailer, we do see them capture that piece of symbiote that escaped at the end of No Way Home, leaving us with the impression that the symbiote got left behind in the MCU. But it feels as though like Sony just completely retconned that in the Venom trailer that we sort of wind up getting. So like if you didn't have any intentions of Tom Hardy's Venom and Spider-Man teaming up, like why retcon that in that way? And then secondly, we've had a movie between something like Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and that was Ant-Man and the Wasp sort of as a prequel, and that didn't necessarily do too well. And so, if Spider-Man 4 plans on being sort of that middle ground, it just feels like, for me, it just feels like an odd placement for, of all characters, a Spider-Man movie, because I think Spider-Man is bigger than sort of I don't want to call it like a spin-off, but it feels like it's like a spin-off of, it's like when you read a comic book, Stuart, right? And a big sort of event happens in the comic books, and then you have like other titles that wind up having like the subtitle of the crossover, like Spider-Man Battle World. Like this feels like it's like an issue that takes place in that time period, or during the crossover event. And I personally have never really been a big fan of those. Like I'm the fan of like, give me the main title stuff. Like I don't care about the side adventures that happen in that world. I just want the main title stuff. Spider-Man feels like a main title event, not like a spin-off of an event. And so I really would like to see Spider-Man just back to his friendly neighborhood self, dealing with street level stuff. I still don't necessarily fully believe everything that the article states here about all the villains that certainly might have transpired or come into that movie itself. It just feels like Sony's really trying to use as many characters as possible to finally get this Sinister Six movie that they've been trying to do ever since Andrew Garfield's time. It's just like, let's just create our own Sinister Six and just put any villains that we want in there. So I don't there's a part of me that really does not want to believe any of these rumors, whether it be the street level story, or the multiverse story, unless you're going to tell me, hey, the street level is literally going to be just Spider-Man and Daredevil dealing with Wilson Fisk. I'll be completely on board with that. But this just really feels like the most obvious of being able to see where Marvel has one complete direction it wants to go and Sony has a different direction, and they're really clashing.
Mhm.
And it just feels like I don't necessarily know if either of them know what the final thing is certainly going to be, but I think if there's any movie out of the Spider-Man films that has the ability to maybe not do so well, despite it being Tom Holland, maybe it might be this one, because I feel like it's very clear that Marvel and Sony want to take this character in two different directions, and it feels like this might be an amalgamation of ideas that may or may not work. But we'll see. So I'm kind of weary about this one, Stuart.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like, because on the one hand, like some of these ideas do sound kind of cool on paper, but it's really just gonna depend on, I don't know, execution, obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It really will
I
come
don't know.
down. It really will come to execution.
I think the biggest thing is because like it's all coming from rumored sources. It's so hard to know what I should be excited for, other than the fact that we are getting a Spider-Man 4, which is always cool. But yeah. Although to backtrack though on what you were saying before, how like you don't want this to just kind of be a tie-in. You want it to like you don't want Spider-Man to actually be kind of there for Doomsday and Secret Wars. So what I think they're going to do, and I say this because again, Marvel knows that Spider-Man is such a big property. They're going to probably try to see if they can get Spider-Man for at least one of those two movies. And I think the purpose will be way less of while the Avengers were doing this is what Spider-Man is doing. I think it's more just going to be like, oh, Spider-Man's here to help. How did he arrive? What was he doing beforehand? Well, you got to watch Spider-Man 4 to find that out. I think so. I think it'll be a tie-in, but I don't think it'll be like a spin-off. I think that it'll be a tie-in for Spider-Man to join in one of those two movies.
Do you think it'll take place in Battle World?
I think Secret Wars will. I don't know about Doomsday. I actually have
I don't
no
think
idea what
Doomsday
they're,
will.
planning
I
with
think
Doomsday.
the rumor was that Doomsday, as the article stated, that it could lead to the destruction of Earth 616 and then create the universe. And so anything that comes after Doomsday would take place in Battle World, which is why they would want to put Spider-Man 4 in between there and then Secret Wars. I just don't know, Stuart. I don't know what I would want out of this. I just don't. My thing is, we're probably going to see Spider-Man in Doomsday, in Secret Wars. I just don't feel like I personally need a Battle World adventure for him. I'm just ready to get back to the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man stuff. And I think for me too, it's like, I have a feeling that they're probably going to want to get an entire trilogy out of Tom Holland, and I rather utilize these three movies to really focus on him as a character, and also focus on the side characters like MJ and Ned and stuff. And I just feel like there's just so much more for them to tackle and to expand upon for the Spider-Man universe, instead of just having him, like I said, as part of a tie-in or a spin-off to the bigger overall arc. I just rather spend more time with Ned and MJ and Peter Parker in college, and having to navigate. Like, I want a Black Cat. I really want a Black Cat in Spider-Man 4, but I don't know if we would get that in Battle World, or maybe we would, but it would just be this weird multiversal version of the Black Cat character, and I just think that undermines the ability of having a really great Black Cat and Peter Parker story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think there are some cool things you could do with the multiversal storyline with Spider-Man and Venom. I just don't trust Marvel or Sony to like go in those directions, because they're gonna want to think, if we're doing multiverse, we got to do fan service, we got to make it big in scope. Whereas like in actuality, it's like, well, if you're doing multiverse, you're putting Spider-Man in a world where everything Spider-Man related except for Spider-Man himself exists. Wouldn't that be kind of interesting? Like, have Spider-Man kind of like see a alternate reality that he could have lived in, a different world he could have been Spider-Man in, a world that, he could have made better had he been Spider-Man in that world, something like that. Maybe even introduce variants of MJ and Ned, also as well. That would be kind of cool. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think that if they do multiverse, they're going to be like Easter eggs, other Spider-Man, epic action, whereas like, I think that if you do a grounded, and this is why I think a lot of fans want them to do a more grounded street level Spider-Man movie, is that then you're kind of forced to rely on the characters to tell the story. You're kind of forced to rely on your street level characters and their banter, their chemistry, all that kind of stuff. It's just easier for Sony and Marvel if they get to produce like a high budget action multiverse movie, because then they don't have to worry if the script is tight or not. As long as it's like colorful, as long as there's a lot of eye candy action, people are going to go see it. So yeah, I think that's my biggest concern if they decide to do that instead of going, and again, I wouldn't be super upset of them not doing the grounded street level stuff if that isn't what they built up to in the last movie. And I think that it's just the perfect way to continue the character after they went so huge already in the previous film. That previous film was like one of those rare exceptions where they were able to be, huge in scope, give us plenty of Easter eggs, and then also tell a great story with the characters. And I just don't think they'll be able to catch lightning in a bottle twice. I think that was like a great first. I think they did a great job. I don't think it'll work the same way if they try to do that again.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It feels like they're trying to recapture what they did and trying to make all that money back. And maybe they now think to themselves, "Oh, multiverse story is the way to go with Spider-Man," and now they want to redo all that again. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. In regards to at least Destin Daniel Cretton, regardless of what the story is going to be, I do think that he's going to be a great director for Spider-Man. He had a great vision for Shang-Chi. I loved his directorial work on that film. It was fun. It was lively. It was vibrant, bright. I think that definitely fits the scope of what Spider-Man could potentially be. It's really going to come down to, I think, the script for me. So we'll see what direction they go in. They seem like they're ready to go ahead and start doing production as fast as they can. This may get worked on relatively soon, sort of how Universal was ready to rush in front of the cameras for their new Jurassic World movie. Wouldn't be surprised if we start getting more Spider-Man 4 news here within the next couple of weeks, if not months. So we'll see how that works out. But guys, let me know about your thoughts. Spider-Man 4 has found its director in Shang-Chi director Destin Daniel Cretton. If anything, Stuart, this does make me concerned about where the hell is Shang-Chi 2 going to be. Like, we've been waiting forever for this movie to certainly drop. I was hoping that we would get ourselves another Shang-Chi sequel before these Avenger films or in between these Avenger films, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case at all if Destin's going to be the director for Spider-Man 4. To me, the bad news out of this comes for Shang-Chi fans, where I just think that story's just being pushed further and further and further sort of down the line.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to Marvel just not being able to come up with a solid plan, like, and they haven't really since Phase 4. I think it just kind of feels like they're constantly going like, you know, and I think it works. Like, I think it would be fine if they weren't building anything up, if their movies were mostly standalone. But the problem is, like, it's like they're constantly trying to hint at something. It's like they're constantly building towards something, but every movie is building towards something different. You know what I mean? And I think that's like initially why they probably are pushing a lot of movies back, is because, you know, maybe the directors of those movies had one thing planned, but Marvel had something very different planned. And I think that's the case with Shang-Chi. They probably want to wait until after, you know, the big Avengers crossover before making a sequel. And then, you know, hopefully actually coming with a more solid idea of what direction they want to take it. Oh, you're muted.
I know Simu Liu have been hinting at the idea of him popping up sooner rather than later, so I am under the impression he may be in like a post-credit scene or in some sort of upcoming movie, whether that be Fantastic Four, Captain America, Thunderbolts, who certainly knows. But hopefully we see his character again before the Avenger films. But
I could see him showing up in Wonder Man.
oh, Wonder Man might be a good one too, considering the fact that Destin is attached to that series. That's a good call too, Stuart. So we'll see where he pops up at. But guys, let us know your thoughts. Spider-Man 4 finds its director in Destin Daniel Cretton from Shang-Chi, along with some potential grain of salt rumors for what the script of Spider-Man 4 could be. Are you on the multiverse saga storyline of Spider-Man and Battle World, or would you personally like to see a more grounded street level Spider-Man movie once again? Let us know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. And Stuart, with that out of the way, we will move on to our next topic, as we're going to revisit a topic that we just talked about last week, as Lanterns is back in the news. Just a little bit of a refresher course from you guys. If you missed our episode last week, there was reports that Josh Brolin had been offered the role of Hal Jordan in the Lantern series, as James Gunn and Peter Safran were looking to go with a more veteran Hal Jordan, an older member to the Green Lantern Corps, trying to find actors in their 40s to early 50s in order to play Hal Jordan. And we had gotten word that Josh Brolin had been offered the role, despite the idea of there being sort of a short list of actors that had auditioned for the role, but it seems as though Josh Brolin was the one that at least had been offered it. Well, this week, Stuart, we've got further development from the Hollywood Reporter that let us know that Josh Brolin, apparently, Stuart, has turned down the role as Hal Jordan in Lanterns. And so Stuart, it's up to us to pick our new Green Lantern. James Gunn reached out to me and said, Adam and Stuart, I want you guys to pick out our new Green Lantern. So let's go ahead and dive into this report and try and figure out maybe why he decided to go ahead and drop this, and see who is also on the short list, ready to go ahead and take over for him. So let's go ahead and dive into this. This is from Hollywood Reporter. Josh Brolin passes on HBO's Green Lantern TV show. It says Josh Brolin will not be wearing the ring after all. The actor has passed on an offer to star in Lanterns, the DC Studios series based on the Green Lantern superhero character, is what sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. Brolin was eyed to play Hal Jordan, the cocky Green Lantern hero previously played by Ryan Reynolds. According to multiple sources, the actor received an offer at the end of August. By the end of this past weekend, his mind was made up. No other details were made available, though. It says Lanterns already has a high pedigree, as Ozark's Chris Mundy is show running the 8-episode series and co-written by Damon Lindelof, as well as comic author Tom King. The show, which falls under the HBO banner, is casting and in the middle of hiring directors. The series is looking to shoot from next January to June in Atlanta. The casting would be another title in Brolin's comic book resume, but apparently he is saying no to that. The internet was all abuzz about the project of Brolin playing Jordan, although he was never a sure thing. Speculation also arose from several other A-listers, but it's unclear how valid those rumors are. Matthew McConaughey, for example, will not be donning the ring, according to sources. So Josh Brolin out, Matthew McConaughey out. Who is next, Stuart? And we did have a short list of some other actors' names that were being thrown out there. So Josh Brolin done, Matthew McConaughey done, and now it seems as though we are left with Chris Pine, Ewan McGregor, and Timothy Olyphant, according to the rumored shortlist of actors that did audition for the role. And when we talked to, or not when we talked to, but when Nexus Point News highlighted the idea of Josh Brolin being offered the role, they did state that if he decided not to take it, that his the role would be offered to whoever was certainly next on the list. So that really kind of dives into the question, Stuart. If not Josh Brolin, then who? Any thoughts on who you personally would like?
Personally, Chris Pine for me, because I okay, so like from looking at like the kind of Hal Jordan that they're trying to cast, maybe Chris Pine wouldn't be the best one for this, but just my idea of Hal Jordan, which is that he's kind of like the slightly goofier Green Lantern out of the Green Lantern Corps, not quite to the level of Guy Gardner, but still, he's not afraid to crack a joke every now and then. I think Chris Pine would actually be kind of perfect for that. When it comes to like, what it looks like they're going for, which is kind of like the more no nonsense, older Green Lantern. That I'm not sure about, honestly. I think that Chris Pine could play that role pretty fine if that's what they want him to do. I just think that if you're going to put Chris Pine, though, in the role, let him stick to his strengths. And I think his strengths are, playing a role kind of serious, but also being able to tell a joke, every now and then.
Yeah, I think I'm probably right there with you in regards to who I personally would like to see donut next. I do think Timothy Olyphant is a pretty interesting choice. Just from features alone, I think he could probably pull off the Hal Jordan. But I would agree with you. Last time we talked about this, I think we both stated how we would really love Chris Pine to be in that in the running for sure. One of the things that we both speculated, Stuart, I think I speculated on it when I did the individual YouTube video. And then when we talked about the Josh Brolin stuff last time, you mentioned the idea of like if they're going with Brolin because they wanted to do a potential parallax storyline of him becoming a villain, that casting would probably really work just based off of us being able to see what Josh Brolin's range certainly is like. Look, who knows? They probably could still be going the parallax route. Again, that's just speculation on our part if we wanted to, because we're going with the more veteran, aged Green Lantern and Hal Jordan here. But just from an acting perspective, like if we're really going for the charm and the hot-headedness, somebody that I can really believe as a Hal Jordan, Chris Pine to me just really feels like he kind of fits that role. Whether or not he would want to come back because of the fact that we've already seen him as what was his name in Wonder Woman? Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
I do wonder if that would hinder him from wanting to return, if that would confuse some people like, hey, isn't that the Wonder Woman character, Steve Trevor? Is he now the Green Lantern? Like, I do wonder if that would be some reasons they decided not to go with Chris Pine, or why Chris Pine wouldn't want the role. But that would probably be my next man up, Chris Pine and then Timothy Oliphant. But there could be other actors out there that could potentially be better for this role that maybe we aren't even privy to. Who knows if that short list that we have is accurate or not. But I don't know if James Gunn has come out and like denounced that short list or not. But I do like the idea of Chris Pine maybe eventually taking up this mantle of the Green Lantern. I think he would just make a great Hal Jordan specifically.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah,
I wonder if
again,
he could. I
sorry.
do wonder, like, if he. I'm trying to think of past Chris Pine roles in the sense of like, can he play that rough, gruff, tough sort of veteran Hal Jordan? Like, could he bring that side again if they are going parallax? Can he juggle the idea of being heroic in nature, but also play like there's a deeper mystery and something going on here with Hal Jordan to where he could flip that switch and turn into sort of a power crazed parallax at some point in time. Like, I do wonder if Chris Pine has that range. Maybe I'm just not used to seeing some of the stuff that he's been in, but do you think that's something he could pull off if that's the route that they go?
I'm trying to look through his IMDb to see if he's played a villain before. None come to mind, but as I'm like kind of trying to picture it in my head, personally, I think he could pull it off. I don't think he'd be the best choice in terms of like if you're going for Hal Jordan turning into Parallax, but I do think he'd be able to pull it off just fine.
Yeah, we'll see. He's definitely a good enough actor, certainly to make it work if he needs to. But yeah,
Because while I haven't seen him go evil, I have seen him lose his temper on screen, whether it's from playing Kirk or I think he probably had like a moment of like getting angry during one of the Wonder Woman movies. And yeah, so I think he could definitely pull off like, being angry and after having lost everything.
there's this movie I want to see. I think it's called Rebel Ridge, or it's some Netflix series that people have been promoting this gentleman as potentially John Stewart. I think there's a lot of really great potential young black actors out there that can do this role as John Stewart, to play opposite of Hal Jordan. It'll be interesting to see who they pick, but I have been seeing a lot of. I think it's called Rebel Ridge. Let me Google search this. Is it Rebel? Yeah, Rebel Ridge. It's a 2024 Netflix film starring Aaron Pierre. I recall him from Krypton, if I'm not mistaken, the sci-fi Superman series that they had. But Aaron Pierre looks like, I mean, just from his presence on screen, first off, the guy is huge. He's definitely built for sure, but his presence on screen is quite intimidating. Like, he could definitely pull off like somebody like a former Marine or something like that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he's a little too much for the role of John Stewart. I have no idea, but there's a ton of potential. I think even from some of the fan casting that we've done, I've seen some other people suggest some other actors playing John Stewart. So I think it's really going to come down to what's the chemistry going to be like between whoever Hal Jordan and John Stewart is when it comes to their actors. So I do wonder if you think they're going to do any like screen test chemistry between these actors?
Oh, I'd be surprised if they didn't, because that's something that if James Gunn is producing it, he'll definitely want to make sure that the cast and crew can get along as well as the characters, because he did a lot of that for Guardians of the Galaxy.
And I think for me, this is real. I don't want to say this is where it trips me up, but the fact that we get this casting news and stuff, like there's a part of me that's got to believe that these people that have been offered the role, even if casting is happening as of right now, sometimes there's a part of me that thinks to myself, a lot of the casting's already been done, but we're getting news late, because sometimes films will already been in production while we're getting casting announcements. You know what I mean? So I do wonder, like, if this short list is even necessarily correct, because I do wonder if they are still sort of casting for Jon Stewart, if they haven't already found him, like, how do you pick a Hal Jordan without picking a Jon Stewart relatively at the same time? Because I would think that you would want to pick the offer the role to the person that works best as part of a chemistry test. You know what I mean? Before you even like offer somebody a particular role. So that's one of the reasons I think, like, if they have a short list already for Hal Jordan, I got to think that there's a short list out there already for Jon Stewart actors, and maybe they already know who they want to give the role to.
Yeah. Looking at Aaron Pierre, man, the dude's built like you were saying,
he's like a
and
tank, bro.
yeah, and plus I think he's I don't know how old he is because I can't find his age on his IMDb page, but I think it looks like he hits that age range that they're going for with Jon Stewart. So yeah, I could definitely see him pulling off the role really well. But yeah, I do agree. I do wonder if part of it is that they want to cast one of them first, so in this case Hal Jordan, and then they want to start looking for Jon Stewart actors after the fact, basing it on who they think would play off their choice of Jon Stewart really well. It's either that or, yeah, like you said, they're doing both behind the scenes. We're just only hearing about the Hal Jordan stuff at the moment. Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see who they land on when it comes to the Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart role. But apparently, it is not going to be Josh Brolin anymore. So, if you had any actors that you personally would like to see as Hal Jordan, who's on your short list? Do you have one or two names that you want to go ahead and certainly throw out that you're interested in playing Hal Jordan? Do you have anybody in mind for Jon Stewart? Also, we definitely would love to know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. So yeah, let us know your thoughts.
And just because he turned down the role for Green Lantern doesn't mean we won't eventually see him in the DC universe. So, let us know who you would cast him as if you were in charge of the DC universe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that thinks to myself, one, it couldn't have been the script. And I only say that because I think you've got Damon Lindelof along with Tom King working on this. I think that's a brilliant combination. Not to say that doesn't mean that the script could be bad, but I am curious as to why he decided not to. Maybe he's taken up too many comic book roles in the past, and he's like, I'm kind of done with it right now. Or maybe maybe the script just didn't connect with him at the end of the day. So I am kind of curious as to why he turned it down.
If I had to guess, if I'm a betting man, I'm just going to assume he's already done, two really big comic book roles. And so I think he's just kind of like, I'm good. Let someone else take this up because I already got my spot my time in the spotlight.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think even Marcelino mentioned that last week or the week before when we highlighted it as to one of the reasons why he didn't want to see Josh Brolin take it, because of the fact that he's had so many roles. I mean, he's done Jonah Hex, he did Cable in the Deadpool 2, and then he did Thanos for a couple of films also. So yeah, you might be right. He might just be ready to move on to something else besides comic book stuff. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Who would you like to see as Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that, Stuart, we will stay in the world of the DCU. We might go a little bit more elseworlds, though, as the Batman is back in the news, as Matt Reeves is certainly discussing the future of his Batman franchise. With James Gunn now sort of taking control over DC Studios. We do know that James Gunn and Peter Safran plan on doing a Batman film of their own titled Brave and the Bold. Where does that lead? Where does that leave, I should say, Matt Reeves, the Batman saga, especially after we've had a cancellation of the Arkham Asylum series that he was supposed to be working with for a DCU series. And so Matt Reeves recently just came out and talked to Collider.com a little bit about the future of the Batman saga. And is Batman Part 2 going to be the end of this, or can we expect more from Matt Reeves. And I thought this was an interesting article for us to dive into here this week. So let's go ahead and highlight this story. This is from Collider. Matt Reeves reveals if the Batman Part 2 is the end of his Dark Knight saga. Let's find out what Matt Reeves has to say here. He says, in a recent interview, Collider Steve Wintraub, Matt Reeves confirms that his original vision for the Batman was always part of a larger trilogy. Reeves reaffirmed that his plan for the trilogy remains intact despite some recollaborations along the way. The success of the Batman was partly due to its clear direction, and fans were curious if Reeves had made adjustments to his long-term vision, especially with the introduction of the Penguin spin-off series, which sees Colin Farrell reprise his role of Oz from the Batman. Matt Reeves acknowledged that while things have shifted slightly, the core of the trilogy's trajectory remains the same. This is what he says. He says, things kind of shifted. So when we came up with the idea to do the Penguin, that was something that I always intended to continue Penguin's story and wanted to tell this story of his beginning of rise to power, because we know that he's introduced in the Batman as kind of a mid-level, sort of overlooked, mocked figure who's not yet in anyone's eye the kingpin we come to know him as in the lore. And so that was deliberate because I wanted, whereas it wasn't Batman's origin story, I wanted the origin stories of these other characters, of the Rogues Gallery, and that story was originally going to be the entree into the next movie. Excuse me. He also says, while discussing what he calls the Batman epic crime saga, heads of original Sarah Aubrey, Reeves noted their excitement not only about the upcoming films, but also the potential. Oops, where did it go? Also, the potential for the Penguin series to expand the story, explaining that there wasn't a need to hold everything back on the big screen. This is what he wind up telling Collider. He goes on to say, one of the things that Casey said was, God, I'm really excited about what we're doing in the movies too. We'd love for you to do something in the series that's like one of these marquee characters. Don't hoard, don't save everything just for the theatrical experience. And I said, well, let me tell you what I wanted to do as the sort of next leg of this story as an entree. I wanted to basically, in the wake of what happens at the end of the first movie, Carmine Falcone is dead. He's had power for 20 years. And now in the power vacuum, as Selina says to him, it's going to get bloody. And this is the moment where Rob as Batman is narrating at the end of the movie. Some people will seize the chance to grab anything they can, and that's Oz. It was kind of like imagining almost that story, an aspect kind of like a Scarface story, like a gangster story. And Casey was like, that's the series we want. That's the series. This article just keeps going all over the place on me, man. I'm trying to get this thing to settle down a little bit so I can actually read.
It's like the moment you scroll down just a tiny bit, it just wants to.
Yeah. He says it's still the same kind of trajectory of the story, but the entry point for where Oz is now, that he's further along as we enter the story, he would have been, if we had started this story in the movie instead of by doing series. Reeves confirms that the Penguin picks up a week after the events of the first film and tells a fairly compressed story itself. The story plays out over the next weeks that take you forward toward the end of the year. We don't play Christmas or New Year's, but we're getting there. So it does seem as though the Batman Part 2 is probably going to take place during the winter time, if you will.
Dang, so winter in Gotham when it's already like flooded.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, maybe Gotham will turn into like half ice rink, if you will.
Oh my gosh, I wonder if that's what inspires the Penguin to open up his like restaurant, because if I'm not mistaken, it's like an ice themed restaurant. So I wonder if that's what inspires it.
Yeah, maybe. I was trying to look for the comments when he talks about the idea that this won't end his Oh, he says, yes, that's still the plan. Reeves said confidently. I mean, it's sticking very closely to the path that we envisioned if the trilogy was still in the cards. So the trilogy very much is still in the cards for Matt Reeves' Batman. And I personally am really excited for it. I'm glad that he hasn't missed a beat. There was a part of me that was kind of concerned and worried with the cancellation of the Arkham Asylum stuff. Was like, man, is this James Gunn and Peter Safran trying to tie the story up so that they can eventually tell their story for Batman Brave and the Bold? But I don't think that's certainly necessarily the case. Like it would not surprise me if Matt Reeves still has maybe one more spin-off series sort of under his belt, or something that he has in mind to kind of bridge the gap then between a Batman Part 2 and the end of his trilogy. If he mentions the idea in this article, like, look, we envision to not tell an origin story for the Batman, but we do want to tell origin stories for some of the rogues gallery. And if we're going to get ourselves an origin story, if you will, of somebody like a penguin, it does make me wonder if we get introduced to somebody else in season 2 that can, or I should say Batman Part 2, that can then get sort of a spin-off series of its own to then connect to a bigger picture that is Batman Part 3. Whether that be Clayface, whether that be Mr. Freeze, I really have no idea who's certainly up next. But I think rumors are speculating that he wants to tackle somebody like Hush. I've also heard rumors of Mr. Freeze also. So who knows what direction that they're going in. But I do love this world. I know some people certainly have their maybe fatigue of a, a Batman that's grounded and maybe wants a little bit more fantastical. And I think we'll certainly get that for something like a James Gunn. But I do think that we can live in the world where we get a fantastical Batman story being told and certainly a more grounded story being told, because I think at the end of the day, I think people really resonated with the noir detective style that Matt Reeves certainly brings. And I am kind of curious as to how he takes that same mentality and works it towards some of Batman's more fantastical rogues gallery, and how he winds up bringing these characters to a more grounded street level. So I'm excited for the story. I think he's got his hand on the button. I think he knows exactly the story that he wants to tell. I've been hearing really great positive buzz and reviews from the Penguin, and I do think that people that check out the Penguin are probably going to be really excited to get back in this world that Matt Reeves has certainly created in here. So, but what do you think about all this, Stuart, when you hear him talk about, yes, the trilogy is still in the works? While we've had to shift some things around, we certainly still have plans. Do you think there's other potential spin-offs? And what do you think about how he views something like the Penguin being sort of the perfect sort of branching off point to connect these two movies?
Yeah, no, like everything I've seen, especially like after the first Batman movie, I feel like this guy can do no wrong. Like there was a movie franchise that tried to do this, but like the first one was so bad it immediately fell flat. But it was the Dark Tower series, and originally what they were going to try to do with that is they would have a movie every year, and then the next year you would have a series, or sorry, it would be a series where it'd be one season, and then the next year it'd be a movie, and then the next year it'd be season 2. And so like that was how they were going to try to tell the story of the Dark Tower, apparently. But of course, that movie did absolutely like terrible in theaters. But I could see this working for a property like Batman if this is the direction they want to go in. And from the sound of it, with him mentioning that other spinoffs could be in development without like confirming or denying it, saying that it's a possibility, I do think that that would be kind of a cool move if they wanted to take that with the Batman franchise. If they wanted to do a movie one year and then a TV series the next year, or a spinoff of like whether it be like a villain that was introduced in the previous movie, trilogy, or just something to kind of get it to tie into the next upcoming Batman movie. But that's because it kind of seems like that's what they're doing here, because we got the Batman, the Penguin, which takes place right afterwards, and it sounds like the movie, the Batman Part 2, will be taking place right after the Penguin. It may not necessarily be like a full setup for the Batman 2, but we know that it is going to play a pivotal role in the Batman 2 going forward. So if they wanted to do that again, like maybe take like a villain who wasn't like the main villain of the Batman 2, and they wanted to give him a spin-off show, showing him rising to power within the time frame between the Batman 2 and the Batman 3, I think that'd be a really cool direction to go in. And depending on how successful it is, I know he said a trilogy of movies, but if it's successful enough, this is something that you could have like continue on going forward. And even though he said he's not interested in tackling the more fantastical side of the Batman universe, if it goes on long enough, I feel like eventually we're going to get there in this world. But that's way down the line. For my thoughts on his trilogy and the spinoffs is, I think that it's I'm all for it. Again, because so far I haven't seen anything from Matt Reeves I don't like. So I think he has yet to let me down, and I think that he's obviously, you listen to him talk about Batman, he loves the character, and I look forward to seeing how he'll be able to expand that world of Gotham, and in his kind of vision.
Yeah, there's a part of me that thinks that we will get some levels of fantastical in his movies. I don't think he's completely ruled it out, but I think he's also in the process of like, who's not so fantastical, like who's not so over the top that I would really have to change what it is that I'm doing, that I can still kind of keep them grounded. Like, how can I take their fantastical elements and make them more of a grounded character? And I think we talked about this last time when we discussed Matt Reeves and some of the Rogues Gallery characters that he might be able to tackle. I still do think that Clayface is a great possibility at some point in time, if only because, as we mentioned before, how they portrayed Clayface in something like a Batman Cape Crusader animated series that he himself is an executive producer on, in the sense of him, Clayface sort of like as an actor that's trying to get his good looks back and will go to sort of any lengths, if you will, to be able to like become a doppelganger and change your facial features to impersonate other people. I think something like that is like where you take a character like Clayface, who is truly fantastical, this big sludge piece of clay, right? But you can bring him down into a more grounded character if it works out that way. So I agree with you. I do think that while we may not get super fantastical, there probably will be some elements that make their way into his films.
Yeah. And I think for Clayface, you could probably, the easiest way to ground him into kind of like an easier for audiences to digest kind of way is that instead of making him a huge, like, pile of slush, just make it so it's like his face, like he can change his face, but like not necessarily everything else about him.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I can see him trying to pull something else off like that. We got the girlfriend on board here today. Hi, friends. What's up, Cindy? Good to see you, babe. Marcelino in the house too. He says another problem was that the Dark Tower was rather than adapt the books, the first movie was a sequel to books, while the TV show would adapt the book series. That was risky and didn't pay off. What's the Dark Tower?
Yeah, the movie I was talking about that was meant to be like,
yeah.
movie, TV show.
Yeah,
I
gotcha.
didn't know it was a sequel to the books. That's funny. I just assumed, because I never read any of the Dark Tower books, so I just assumed it was based on the first book.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that though. Movie series. For me, it works as long as the story works. And from a lot of the things that I've been hearing so far from the Penguin, it really works. Like, I've been hearing some really great things about it. I'm not one that likes to read too much into first reactions, but it definitely makes me hopeful that it'll be a pretty good season. So we'll see. Yeah, maybe it'll get people anticipated to returning to this world. But yeah, I'm just happy Matt Reeves is continuing his trilogy. I need a trilogy from this world for sure, because I'm loving what he's creating there, and I love what Robert Pattinson's doing as the character too. But let us know your guys' thoughts. Are you happy to hear that, yes, the plan is still for a Batman Saga trilogy, despite some things being moved around? What villains, fantastical or not, would you like to see Matt Reeves certainly try and tackle and make them a little bit more grounded? I definitely want to know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below.
Now, here's a weird one. Do you think, like, let's say the trilogy ends and we still haven't gotten a Brave and the Bold or any Batman movie for the DC universe? Do you think Matt Reeves, after he finishes his Batman trilogy, would be willing to come into the DC universe and write a Batman movie, but now within the DC universe? Do you think that's something he would be down to do?
No, I think he'd be done. I think James Gunn probably is going to have somebody else come in and do Batman Brave and the Bold. But I mean, he's still connected to Cape Crusader. I would definitely be interested if I'm him to bring Matt Reeves in to do something else. Like, I don't know. I think he might be pretty good at like I wouldn't mind seeing him tackle somebody like a Constantine or like a Justice League Dark sort of thing element. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would like to see him tackle, but I definitely would like to see him work even more with James Gunn, especially if James Gunn's a big fan of what he's doing on the Batman right now.
Yeah, definitely.
But we'll see, guys. We'll definitely keep you updated with any other Batman news and information. With that out of the way, Stuart, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic as we're going to get into the Dune franchise as Dune is getting ready to do some big things even more. We had part 1 and part 2 released out in theaters. There's been a lot of talk as to whether or not we're going to be getting ourselves a Dune Messiah. Like, will there be a trilogy of films? Will they adapt the Dune Messiah book? We also got ourselves an upcoming Dune series that's set to go ahead and be a Max original that's dropping this October as well. And so I wanted to highlight a couple things here for the Dune franchise and give you guys sort of an outlook as to what's to come, because Denis Villeneuve is in the news here this week. He literally just sat down with Vanity Fair to talk about the idea of doing another Dune movie. According to Vanity Fair, the article reads, or the title, I should say, says, Denis Villeneuve wants to make one more Dune movie, but don't call it a trilogy. So let's see what he's talking about here. I feel like we've heard him talk a little bit about doing another Dune film. It felt like in the past he wanted to wait a couple of years to tackle it, but based off of how successful the Dune films have been, it doesn't surprise me if Warner Brothers is like, how about we make it now? So Vanity Fair
as soon as he said no, Warner Brothers was like, all right, here's one more zero, and what's your answer now?
yeah. He says Villeneuve has dedicated the past 8 years of his life to Dune, fulfilling the childhood dream to adapt the book he'd been obsessed with as a teen. Here he talks about making this life-changing franchise, witnessing Chalamet's growth, and while Dune Messiah will likely be his final trip to Arrakis. Let me scroll down here a little bit. The ending of Dune Part 2 leaves us wanting a little bit more. Where are you in the process of adapting Dune Messiah? He says, first, it's important people that understand that for me, it was really a diptych. What the hell is that? A diptych. What does that even mean, Stuart? Can you Google search this word? DIPTYCH. Diptych? It was really a diptych. What the fuck does that even mean, bro?
A painting, special.
What's the
It's a
definition?
type of painting. It's like when you paint, like on a wooden plaque that also has like the carvings in it.
Okay, so it's kind of like saying this is pretty much a work of art for him.
Yeah.
It's really a diptych. It was really like a pair of movies that will be the adaptation of it was really a pair of movies that will be the adaptation of the first book. That's done and that's finished. If I do a third one, which is in the writing process, it's not like a trilogy. It's strange to say that, but if I go back there, it's to do something that feels different and has its own identity. He says, they say that story is set 12 years in the future. How would you do that with the cast? He says, that's my problem. I know how to do that. He says there are more books after Dune Messiah. Do you think about directing more movies or letting someone else continue this as a franchise? He says, listen, if Dune Messiah happens, it will have been many years for me on Arrakis, and I would love to do something else. I think that it would be a good idea for me to make sure that in Messiah there are seeds in the project if someone wants to do something else afterwards, because they are beautiful books. They are more difficult to adapt. They become more and more esoteric. It's a bit risky a bit tricky to adapt, but I'm not closing the door. I will not do it myself, but it could happen with someone else. He says, you said you're writing now, but you're attached to several projects. What's your focus? He says, the thing I envy in my past is that before nobody cared what I was doing next. That's funny. He says, no, I'm joking. He says, but it was easier to say it was easier to stay under the radar. And I don't like to have a lot of projects on the stove. I like to do one thing at a time. I have too many things right now. It's true that I'm working on Rendezvous with Rama, and that screenplay is slowly moving forward. Cleopatra as well, and Dune Messiah. I'm looking forward to go back behind the camera, and we'll see what happens next. So he seems like he's open to the idea of doing Dune Messiah. He talks about the idea here, Stuart, that the script itself is certainly in the works, but as far as anything after Dune Messiah, he seems pretty open to letting somebody else tackle that. And personally, Stuart, I'm perfectly okay with that. I do think that there's sometimes creators can stay a part of one franchise for sort of way too long and sort of miss the vision and the message and sort of get ahead of themselves a little bit. I think something like that happened with Sam Raimi when it comes to Spider-Man 3, maybe a little bit more outside interference from the studios and whatnot. So there's always an issue that I have, not always an issue, but there's always a wariness of a director or somebody staying on board a franchise so long. And I think maybe even Denny feels that type of way, in the sense of like, look, there's other things that I want to do. I would have spent 12 years of my life in Arrakis. Like, there's other things that I want to do, but I'm open to at least doing Messiah and leaving it open for other people. What do you think about that, though?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I also especially love like kind of like at the beginning where he says like don't call it a trilogy, because with Messiah being 12 years after Dune takes place, and then just the whole world itself kind of having a different like vibe, it makes sense, because even though it's it's still taking place afterwards, it's not like a direct sequel. It's like from what I understand with the book, it takes place like kind of years afterwards, so a lot about the world has changed. But yeah, I do like that he's open to coming back, but he's also not like he's not trying to overhype anything. He's not trying to be like, oh no, I got like this 20-year plan of what we're going to be doing with the Dune franchise coming forward. It's like he came in, he wanted to adapt his favorite book as a kid, and he did a really good job. And now it's like whatever happens next, it happens next. If he does the next Dune movie, it sounds like he'll do it. He'll put as much heart and passion into it, but I do like that he's humble enough to know to step down after that, to like let someone else take on the Dune novels, and then also be able to work on other projects that he's super passionate about. Again, this guy has never missed with me when it comes to his movies, from Arrival to Blade Runner to of course the new Dune movies. I definitely look forward to seeing like what direction he takes Dune Messiah, especially because like I never read the book, so I have no idea what even happens in Dune Messiah. Everything I hear about with it comes from my friends who have read the book. So I would love to see him taking that same kind of visual approach that he took with the first two movies, and then bringing it into this new Dune Messiah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Denny rarely ever misses, if at all. So I am interested to see what his next projects after something like Messiah could potentially be. I did get a chuckle when he said he appreciated when he used to be under the radar, and people used to not ask him all these questions about what's your next project, because nobody cared back then. But now he's super popular.
And that's what's so funny too, because it's like his movies were never like fully like successful. Like they made like a
Right.
little bit of profit, but they never made back that money that like studios usually look for with the type of budget that he gets for his movies. But yet the studios kept giving him money because the reviews were absolutely phenomenal. And so I'm glad that they never gave up on him, that they kept,
Sure.
because I think Dune 2 was probably his first like actual success, because even the first movie didn't do well since it came out at like just a terrible time during the pandemic. So I think like Dune 2 is like his only movie that he's made where it's actually become like profitable, you know?
Yeah, I mean that is something to appreciate, is the fact that he can create sort of like these cinematic classics and people don't necessarily judge him based off of his box office numbers, sort of thing, that they know that he's making great quality films. And that's one of the reasons why we usually say around here, like, a box office doesn't necessarily determine how good or bad a movie is. It just kind of determines the popularity, certainly at its time. But I do think people that check out Dune will certainly let you know that those are some pretty good masterpieces when it comes to cinematic stuff. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what he does when it comes to Messiah, for sure.
Yeah.
But going from Messiah from a cinematic perspective to a more television perspective, we did have ourselves another article here. This one in regards to Dune Prophecy, the upcoming series itself, as one of the lead actresses talks a little bit about what we can certainly expect from this role. This series is set to go ahead and drop for us later on this year, but this comes to us from Total Film's website, or an offset of their website, gamesradar.com. Dune Prophecy star teases her character and says that the sci-fi series, quote unquote, isn't like Star Wars. I don't know if that's like a shot at Star Wars or what that's supposed to mean, but this comes to us from Emily Watson, the actress that you see here.
I really hope it's not a shot at Star Wars, because it's like one of two things. It either comes off as a shot at Star Wars or the most obvious statement in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Dune is not like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Hockey is not like tea, you know?
Yeah. It says 10,000 years before Paul Atreides became versed in the ways of the Bene Gesserit, two Harkonnen sisters forged their own destiny, helping bring the religious group to life. That's the focus of Dune Prophecy, a prequel show headed our screens this November. Now, Valia Harkonnen, actor Emily Watson, has teased more of the moral complexity of the HBO series while dismissing comparisons to another big sci-fi franchise. She says it's built around the Bene Gesserit order. That's the sisterhood. That's one of the central characters in it, and all the universes that they control and their power. It's kind of fascinating, is what Emily Watson winds up telling Total Film. And what of the Harkonnens? While Watson says there's still a bit of while Watson says they're still of a quote unquote, and pardon my French here, a bit of a fucked up family. The clan will be very recognizably human and complicated and less extreme than their film counterparts millennia into the future. Well, I find that fascinating, just because I do think it showcases a great sense of time, and how much things can change over a certain period of time, right? Like, I tell people all the time, like, not only can perspectives and minds change within a certain period of time, but you look at how we do math 20 years ago. It's completely different now than how kids do math today, right? So like the idea and the learnings and the teachings, whether that be from an education point of view, religious point of view, you see how things vastly change within 20 years, let alone 10,000 years. And so to see that over a millennia, they've become a little bit more extreme is fascinating, to be able to visit Dune Prophecy and see what they used to be like. It says that all the amounts to Dune Prophecy, blending a mix of old lore and world building with a chance to explore more uncharted territory. For Watson, that's a boon that allows her to showcase her talents. She says, it was very exciting, but also very great to go into that world with the security of knowing I've got the skill set to make everything feel real. It's a very interesting palette because it's not childish. It's not like Star Wars. It has a moral complexity, which is interesting. So she puts Star Wars in that childish kind of category, it feels like, from that comment. But am I reading that too wrong, Stuart? Or what do you think she takes away from it? What do you take away from what she said?
No, it comes off more like just Star Wars aimed at young audience, Dune aimed for older audience, I guess.
I get you.
Yeah, I guess childish can mean a couple of things, but I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and just assume she's talking about in terms of like audience that they're going for.
I get you. Yeah, I might be able to. I might be able to get that reach too. What do you think though about her statements in here though? Overall about the Harkonnens, that there's still a bit of a effed up family, very recognizable, human and complicated, less extreme and things like that, and focusing on the sisterhood.
I guess it's kind of more intriguing in that sense because if we see like an order and like would the sisterhood be considered like evil? I mean, kind of not. I don't know. Evil's like, I don't know. Maybe not evil, but you know what I mean. Like just clearly not morally on the right, not like morally paragon or anything like that. But given the way we see them in Dune Part 1 and 2, I do like the idea rather than it just being like kind of just this villainous organization trying to plant themselves into every leadership. Basically, I like this idea of they weren't always that way, but they slowly became corrupt over time. Kind of the idea of power, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, if they're not as bad as we see them like later on in Dune 2, I'm curious on what events kind of like lead them to going down in that direction later on. So I guess that's what kind of intrigued me. Everything else when it comes to like kind of the world building, it's stuff that like it's the part of the Dune franchise that I didn't really care enough to ask about, just because I feel like it was all like perfectly well explained, like within Dune 1, especially like with their whole backstory. So I didn't think we needed a whole show to explain like how they rose to power. But I think that if this is the direction they're going in, it's definitely a way to intrigue me. I'm still kind of like in the same like hype level as I was before, which is that because I like the Dune movies, I'll definitely be watching the show when it comes out, but I'm definitely not on that same hype level as I was for the Dune movies.
Yeah, I very much look at this as me as an outsider looking in because of the fact that I still have not finished watching both of these Dune films.
Oh
Um,
man.
so I am still very much learning about the sisterhood, certainly as a whole. And I'm really fascinated about just their involvement in regards to like the bigger picture, the idea of them planning or at least trying to make this prophecy kind of come to a realization and having sort of like the power play. I think the power play element of the sisterhood is what really kind of fascinates me. The idea that they do have sort of the ear of, several people throughout the universe and whatnot. And it just feels like they're playing this big game. And so there is a fascination that I have, especially because they seem so secretive, that they play in the shadows sort of thing. There is something fascinating to me about that I wouldn't mind getting the opportunity to see just what that origin story is, or where the prophecy sort of originates from, and just to see how how it builds up over those 10,000 years. There's a part of me that's kind of like, based off of what this series might dive into, there's a part of me that's like, Adam, you don't need to watch Dune Part 1 and Part 2 just yet. Like, watch the series itself and then use that as a leaping point to then watch the first Dune and second Dune film. Me and the girlfriend, I think, are like halfway through, or maybe like a quarter through the first Dune movie. So we haven't quite finished it yet, but we did start it.
So you haven't even gotten to the really good parts.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. So there is a part of me that that wants to sort of hold off on watching the Dune movies now, just to watch this series, and then maybe I'll be, I don't want to say more invested, but I think I'll have a better sense of what the sisterhood stands for, and just the the prophecy as a whole and understanding sort of its true importance when it comes to Paul Atreides. So I don't know. I'm excited for it. Again, somebody that hasn't seen the Dune movies fully yet, I am kind of excited for this series because I do think it's gonna, because I love lore and I love world building, and if I can get a prequel that will fill in some of that history for me, that'll make some of the moments in the Dune movies feel that much more impactful, knowing the knowledge about these characters going forward even more. That kind of excites me. So I'm looking forward to Dune Prophecy. So I might tackle it before I even finish the movie, Stuart.
Might watch the show, and then that'll encourage you to watch the movies because they're pretty good.
Yeah, me and the girlfriend, don't get me wrong, me and the girlfriend have really loved what we've watched so far. It's just that we're terrible at like sticking to one thing and finishing it because there's just so much stuff that we're constantly watching all the time.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Marcelino, he says, if someone, I would love if someone else took over Dune franchise because there are over 20 books in the series, but the main series is 8, and I would love to see it conclude on screen. He also says Dune Prophecy will be the first time that a Dune book that wasn't written by Frank Herbert. The later books are mixed, so it'll be interesting to see how it gets adapted. Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting.
I am very curious if they would adapt books that are not written by him.
Yeah, that's a good question. I really have no idea if they would do that or not. Like, I wonder if people that are big Dune fans, if they're like, you can't adapt those. Those weren't written by Frank Herbert. Like, it's not canon. Like, I do wonder, like, how people in the Dune in the Dune franchise view those other books. Like, if they would like for them to be adapted too. But I don't know how connected they are to the Atreides family, or if they just go a completely different route or not. But we'll see. It looks like Denis Villeneuve doesn't mind planting some Easter eggs, though, and some launching off points for future books to be adapted. So we'll see how long this franchise continues for. Look, Warner Brothers loves their big franchises, and if it continues to bring them money, adapt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. What do you think about Denis Villeneuve talking about Dune Messiah, that it might be his last trip to Arrakis? Along with the idea of the Dune Prophecy series. What's your excitement level for that as well? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stuart, we will move on to our next topic as we dive back into the world of John Wick, baby. John Wick 4 has come and gone, but that does not mean that John Wick, the universe, will not continue to produce its spin-offs, as we're set to go ahead and dive into one of the upcoming movies in The Ballerina. That's going to be played by Ana de Armas. We wind up getting ourselves a fantastic update in regards to that particular film. This actually comes to us from Collider.com, where I will say, Stuart, over the past couple of months, we have been hearing more and more about the John Wick franchise. One of the things I think that we talked about or was highlighted several weeks ago or a couple months ago was that Chad Stahelski has in fact sort of signed a deal with Lionsgate, I believe, or whoever owns the franchise, in regards to being more heavily involved with the John Wick franchise. So he's going to really have any say in regards to upcoming television spinoffs, movie spinoffs, and I think he's even getting highly involved in something like a Ballerina, the Ballerina movie. I think some people were really off-put by the Continental Limited series on Peacock, because I don't believe Chad or Keanu Reeves had sort of like any involvement in that series, or whatever the case may be, to kind of keep it on track with the bigger John Wick universe. But it seems as though a lot of that is certainly beginning to change, whether that be from Ballerina and anything going forward. So if you are looking forward to the John Wick spinoff and the universe, Ballerina might be for you. Let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart. This comes to us from Collider.com. As we get an update, Ballerina's Ana de Armas shares a juicy update on the dangerous and sexy John Wick spinoff.
I love it already.
Yeah. Like John Wick devotees everywhere, de Armas was also dismayed to hear that the film needed reshoots in regards to the Ballerina. She says every time they say you have reshoots, it's not good, or at least you don't feel good about it, is what she says. But she has total confidence in the new material, which involved film producer and action maven Chad Stileski. She says, "Oh my gosh, I love Chad." She went on to continue to say, all we did in those reshoots had to be there. We got amazing footage. It's really spectacular. A trailer is coming out soon, I've been told. I saw it and it's beautiful. I'm very proud of it. It's really exciting. It's dangerous. It's sexy. It's very John Wick. I think people are going to be surprised. I'm biased, of course. I like the movie, but I think it's really cool. It's going to be amazing. The reshoots of Ballerina did give De Armas a bit of acting whiplash, though, as she had to jump back into the action after having been in a different state of mind for the movie Eden that she did with Ron Howard. Where did it go? Did she say? She says, I was finishing Eden and we started the reshoots like 2 weeks later. So that was a big switch mentally and physically to get back to that. It was a hard switch, but it was great. I'm assuming because she probably had to get back into her fight training to do the reshoots and whatnot. But yeah, this will in fact be set in the world of John Wick. I don't know when the release date is set for June 7th of 2025. So look forward to seeing that on the big screen next year. But overall, I'm excited for this movie, Stuart. I really am. Look, I don't want to say I never really get worried when it comes to reshoots for a movie. I am fascinated in the way that De Armas talks about the reshoots, that it's not necessarily really always a good thing, but she seemed like she had a really good time when it comes to reshoots. I mean, reshoots usually tend to mean like, hey, we've seen the dailies, we've seen the edit of this film. There are certain things that maybe just don't work or that we feel we can add to the movie to add context, better understanding, let the movie and the pacing flow a little bit better, introduce more action sequences, whatever the case may be. The fact that she got the opportunity to work with Chad one-on-one for the reshoots, I think certainly does go a long way. To me, I think it just continues to add sort of like his involvement to the bigger John Wick universe, in the sense that if there's anybody that's going to be sort of like the gatekeeper of this franchise to make sure that whatever gets put out in this John Wick world meets that bar of what John Wick is supposed to be. And when Anna talks about things like it's dangerous, it's sexy, it's very John Wick, that feels John Wick to me. It feels very much that way. There's always a style and a swag about John Wick or the characters that we see, right? There is very much a sexy element behind it. And so I am really interested to kind of see what these reshoots are going to look like. And I think the involvement of Chad Stileski will just add to how good Ballerina will hopefully end up being at the end of the day. But I'm hopeful for it, regardless of the reshoots. But reshoots are something that are always needed, though, isn't that right, Stuart?
Not always, but
I guess not
oftentimes.
always, yeah.
It's definitely not like a lot of people definitely have that mentality of, oh, reshoots, nah, this is gonna suck. It's like I don't like to look at it like that, because there are plenty of times where you could point at reshoots both working for a film and of course, totally going against a film. But it sounds like the actress here is actually excited despite the reshoots, and it seems like the only thing that kind of sucked about the reshoots was having to get back into a character when she was already playing another character for Eden, and so like trying to go back and forth must have been a challenge. I'm not an actor, so I don't know like how hard that is for some actors to do, but I imagine it's not easy. But I like the words that she's using to describe it: sexy and dangerous. And I think that if there were any two words to use for a John Wick movie, those are the two that you definitely want to go with. Yeah, the only thing that kind of has me somewhat worried about this are the fight scenes, and only because like with the director, looking at his IMDb, he doesn't tend to do like kind of the more hand to hand martial arts kind of fights that we've come to get used to with the John Wick franchise. His are more kind of like supernatural or over the top, like in Underworld or Live Free or Die Hard. So I just hope that I know that like a movie director doesn't often like do the stunt choreography or the fight scenes. They'll usually have kind of like an assistant director or like a second unit director to do that. But I just hope that the fight scenes still feel kind of consistent with what we've seen from the original 4 John Wick movies, and that we have a similar kind of style to that. Just maybe mixing it up with some ballerina, because I do feel like there's any dance that you could really mix into combat, it's ballerinas for sure. Like ballet and combat, I think could actually make for some really fun creative fight scenes. But yeah, we don't know too much about this movie other than like the kind of characters that we're going to be following. But again, I love John Wick, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out.
Yeah, me too. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all comes together, honestly. Um
And then obviously when it comes to John Wick, they know how to build the world, do world building. So that's another thing I always look forward to in a new John Wick movie, is learning more about this universe that they live in. And now that we're not even following John Wick, we're following like a whole new area of that world. I feel like we're going to get to learn a lot more about this world that they live in.
Yeah, did they so I still have not had the chance to check out John Wick 4 yet. Did they introduce more about the ballerina in there at all, or that aspect of things?
Surprisingly, no. It most of the ballerina stuff happened from the
John
third
Wick
movie.
2?
I don't think, or wait, was it John Wick 2 or 3?
I can't remember now. I think it was
Yeah.
2, but I
I
could
think
be
you
wrong.
might be right. It might have been 2. But yeah, like there wasn't too much with the ballerina in John Wick 4. In fact, I don't even think they were mentioned.
If anything, you did mention the idea of world building. Yeah, whether or not we get ourselves a John Wick 5, I can't remember if we had mentioned that they were in early development of a John Wick 5 or not. But we do have not only Ballerina, but we also have the Donnie Yen movie. I think is going to be coming to us from Chad as well. And I think Chad is. I think he. I know you talk about a director, but there's a part of me, I think that he's an action director too. I want to say Chad got his start as a stunt coordinator or an action stunt director, and then turned into actual like director of his own films. But I could be wrong. So there's a part of me that thinks that he's most notably known for like his action directing, but I could be wrong in that sense.
I think you're correct there. Yeah, I think he was originally a fight choreographer, and then he became a director later on.
So I am interested to see like when it comes to him doing reshoots, like what elements is he truly going to be adding to it. I wouldn't be surprised if he has more fight sequences for sure. But we'll see how it goes.
Actually, that might be what he's reshooting, is mostly the fight scenes. Just because, again, looking at the director that they currently have, it looks like he doesn't tend to do a lot of like kind of the more like hand-to-hand combat. His like tend to be more like explosions kind of thing.
I got you. He says Ballerina was in John Wick 3, where she's portrayed by an actress whose face was being hidden in the lighting. That's how Ballerina was set up. Okay, interesting.
That's
I thought she was in 2, in the sense of like meeting. Was that 2? Maybe that was 3. It might have been 3. It's been a
so
while
hard to
since
say, because like
Yeah.
they all take place right after each other.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to remember which events took place in which movie.
Yeah. But I appreciate the heads up, Marcelino. Thank you for clarifying that for us. But all right, guys, with that out of the way, let's move on to our final topic of the day, as we go from John Wick to Masters of the Universe. A great segue. Why not? Right? Like from one movie franchise to the next. Masters of the Universe is back in the news this week. I feel like we've been talking about this more and more, Stuart, as it becomes more and more a reality. For those of you who don't know, the director from Bumblebee, Travis Knight, approached Mattel, or Mattel has officially picked him up to be the director for the Masters of the Universe film. Homeboy came in with an entire pitch and a PowerPoint presentation as to what he wanted to do, and clearly really impressed Mattel with his vision. And so over the past several weeks, if not months, we've been getting updates for Masters of the Universe as we get ready for this film to go into production for hopefully a release sometime next year. But we're beginning a ton of casting announcements as of recent. We had casting for not only Prince Adam, we had casting for Tila, and last week or the week before, we had casting for Evil Lynn. And now, while we don't have official casting, Stuart, we do have some rumors as to who could be our Skeletor. You know, one of the things that we talked about last week was, when are we going to get a Skeletor casting? Like it kind of bewildered me that we wind up getting casting for several other characters, yet Skeletor was certainly nowhere to be found. I thought Homeboy was going to be like the second person announced as casting, but we got some Tila and Evil Lynn stuff, which made us kind of speculate maybe they have sort of a secondary story arc in this film, and maybe that's why Skeletor hasn't been necessarily announced. But a new rumor has begun emerging. We have ourselves a little bit of a report as to who could possibly play Skeletor, and it would be none other than Jared Leto himself. And this is made for some rather interesting debates.
Ooh.
As to who, if this report will hold up or not. But this article comes to us from Comic Book Resources, or CBR.com, that talks a little bit about it. So, Stuart, let's highlight this report and give our thoughts as to whether or not this is true or how we feel about it. It says Masters of the Universe has found its Skeletor, may have found its Skeletor. The cast for the upcoming reboot of the beloved Mattel franchise continues to come together, with Oscar winner now being eyed for the main villain. According to the Insider, or also Jeff Snyder, who usually is pretty right about some of these things, Amazon has offered Jared Leto the role of Skeletor in Masters of the Universe. The main antagonist of Masters of the Universe franchise, Skeletor is usually depicted as a skull-faced, blue-skinned sorcerer who is determined to discover the secrets of Castle Grayskull, as he believes this will allow him to conquer not only Eternia, but the entire universe. It does say that Skeletor was previously portrayed by Academy Award nominated actor Frank Langella in the 1986 Masters of the Universe movie. I thought he was great in the role too, honestly. Leto's potential casting as the main antagonist comes less than a week after Alison Brie joined the cast of Amazon's reboot as Skeletor's second-in-command, Evil Lynn. Leto is no stranger to acting in blockbuster movies. He was the Joker in the Suicide Squad. He also played Neander Wallace in Blade Runner, Morbius in the Morbius movie, and Hatbox Ghost in Disney's movie Haunted Mansion. Up next for the actor is the leading role in the Tron franchise as well. So yeah, it seems as though he is in fact being reported. I'm trying to see if there's any other news or suggestions of what Jared Leto is. It says Jared Leto's potential casting. Have we seen that? Yes, we've already read that. Okay, that might be the end of the Jared Leto stuff. So it Masters of the Universe is scheduled to release June 5th, 2026. So not next year, but about a year and a half away, if you will. So again, this is coming to us from Jeff Snyder, who tends to be pretty accurate in some of his reports and his reporting. So, Stuart, Jared Leto potentially as Skeletor. Yay, nay? I would love your overall thoughts about this.
Nay. Yeah, no, I'm not I don't think he's a terrible actor. I just think he's never given the role that really plays with his strengths, and when he is, it's always with a really bad script. Like, I do think he could have been a really good Morbius, had the script been a lot more solid, but it wasn't. And unfortunately, he did not do the best that I think he really could have do. I always saw potential in Jared Leto. I've just yet to see him like actually utilize that potential, whether it be because the movie script that he's in, like for Suicide Squad and for Morbius, or whether it just be because I just think that a different actor could have played the role a little bit better, like in Blade Runner. Not that he was bad in Blade Runner. I just think that there's probably other actors that could have done that a little bit better. But that to be said, the biggest thing is with Skeletor, I don't think that that role would utilize any of his strengths. I think one of his strengths is kind of like when he's like going with his more kind of calm demeanor. And with a role like Skeletor, he's not meant to have a calm demeanor. He's meant to be over the top and you know, kind of to an extent silly. Like I know they're probably going to try to make him a little edgier in this because obviously you're going for a movie, not a cartoon. But even then, you know, I feel like you want someone who can, you know, project themselves, like, you know, have like basically come up with a good villain voice and project it loudly. And Jared Leto, from everything I've seen him in, is not the kind of actor that can do that. You know, he's always kind of like a more like soft-spoken kind of guy like this, you know? So and that's just not what I would want to see for a character like Skeletor. The other strength that Jared Leto has, you know, and I'll say this is why I thought he would have been perfect for Morbius, his face. His face, it genuinely looks like something out of you know, like a Dracula novel, you know? It's like if I were reading Dracula, that's the type of face that I would like kind of imagine a character like Dracula having. He has that perfect villain face, but we're not going to see it in a movie like He-Man because obviously they're going to be putting prosthetics on it. So it's like casting him in a role of Skeletor, you're not going to be able to utilize any of his strengths as an actor. You're going to have to kind of get him to go out of his comfort zone. And just, again, everything I've seen from him in the past, it doesn't look like he can act outside of his comfort zone. So, you know, that's just me. I'm not the biggest Jared Leto fan. I don't think he was the perfect choice. He was the right choice for Skeletor, but you know, maybe he'll prove me wrong. Maybe this will be the role where I suddenly have a complete 180, kind of like with you know, Peacemaker and John Cena, how I wasn't really a fan of John Cena as an actor until watching Peacemaker, and that made me have like a full 180 of him as a whole. And like you know, maybe this will be the role that'll do that, but just as of now, I don't see it happening. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, you know, I definitely understand 100% everything you stated here. I got no problem with you giving this a nay at all. There's a part of me that wants to be very nay on this too. I'm just in the middle right now. I'm very much in the middle on this, you know, for a couple of reasons. One, I am starting to question how good of an actor Jared Leto is. And I say that in the sense of, you know, this is coming from somebody that recognizes that he is, I think he's an Oscar winner, isn't he? I think he either won an Oscar or he's got nominated for an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club. But I do believe he has won an Oscar. So I do believe that he's got the potential of doing sort of great things. The worry that I have with Jared Leto is that I feel like his choices in script haven't been the best choices in the world. And I am starting to think that Jared Leto is starting to, I don't want to say that I don't want to say that his performances are what's dragging a movie down, but I do think that there is this aura that you can start to give off if you've been in a bunch of really recent bad movies and people associate you with those movies, that if you're attached to anything going forward, that it may drag the anticipation and excitement level down to it. And I feel like the idea of Jared Leto as Skeletor in Masters of the Universe might sideline some people's enthusiasm for this movie just based off of some of his past performances. Like, how did you feel about him as Morbius, Stuart? Like, aside from the script, did you like him as Morbius? Like, have you liked him in the
Okay,
movies he's been in, despite the movies being bad?
so this is gonna be weird to say. When I saw him in the trailers for Morbius, I thought he did a great job in the trailers. And it wasn't until I saw his performance as a whole where I'm like, oh, it looks like they clipped his only like really good moments and used those for the trailers because there's like he has moments where I think he's really good in that role, but then everything else in between is like it ranges from just forgettable to sometimes cringe.
I gotcha. And so yeah, so I guess that's really what the big question for me is now going to be is like, how good of an actor is Jared Leto? Is it the case of he just picks really bad scripts, or is he picking bad scripts and not even performing to his potential? Because like visually, if you're trying to tell me Jared Leto is Skeletor, I can kind of see it. I can kind of, if he can play a vampire, I think his drained looking face could easily become a skeleton too. Like I think with some great sort of prosthetics and some great makeup, you can really bring him to life on the big screen. I don't need my Skeletor to be super over the top. I don't necessarily think if Frank Langella played him kind of over the top. I mean, he didn't play him necessarily with like the most subtle kind of performance. I mean, I think he had some, I don't want to say over the top moments, but very dramatic kind of elements to his performance that I think Jared Leto might be able to kind of tap into. So I'm really not sure what they're looking for in their Skeletor, besides the fact that I can say that Jared Leto probably is not my first pick to certainly play it. I have not seen the new Tron movie, but I think the idea of Jared Leto being attached to the Tron project has maybe lessened my enthusiasm for that film a little bit more. I don't know if it has for you too, Stuart, or not, but it does make me worried. Like if he's attached to a project, I'm automatically worried about it now. Like that's just the aura that Jared Leto has that brings with him now, unfortunately. So I want him to succeed if this report turns out to be true. I want Jared Leto to do an amazing job as Skeletor if this turns out to be true. Do I think he can do the role? Yes. Do I think he's that there are other people that can do the role, if not better? Absolutely. So I am kind of curious as to what Travis Knight and them have seen from Jared Leto that make them say, this is our guy to certainly go ahead and bring him to life. Because while it's not maybe my fan casting, clearly it might have been for Travis Knight. So I don't know. I think this could be a double-edged sword for Masters of the Universe going forward, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I guess like I said, we'll have to see. I will say this, because I even though it seemed like I've just been really shitting on Jared Leto, I do want to make it clear that I do see a lot of potential with him in almost every role that he's done. I do see the potential there. I have just yet. Then again, I also haven't seen what was that one called? Dallas Buyers Club. I also haven't seen that movie. So you know what? Maybe I do need to like finally sit down and watch that movie, and then I can finally see what like all these casting directors have been seeing in him. But as of now, I just haven't seen him in a role where I'm like, yes, he owned that role. I've definitely seen roles that he did a good job in. I just haven't seen him do anything that was mind blowing, at least not yet.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I would definitely recommend Dallas Buyers Club, if not for Jared Leto, for just as a movie in general. It's pretty good.
Is Matthew McConaughey also in that movie?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Ooh, awesome. I love
I think he lost a bunch of weight for that movie because I think he plays like a drug addict or something like that in the film. So
always amazing when actors can do that. In the case of Christian Bale, able to like lose a crap ton of weight, like way too much weight, and then somehow be able to bulk up the next year for Batman.
yeah, I think Joaquin Phoenix recently just came out and talked about it, like his regimen for getting small, like Arthur Fleck, whatever his damn name is. Anyway, but I think he even mentioned as he's getting older, like he can't do that anymore to his body. It's just not good anymore.
Yeah.
Marcelino says, if this is true, maybe he'll become a Skeletor at the end of his film. Like maybe this will be Skeletor's origin before he gets his skull face and becomes over the top. It potentially.
I'm not opposed to that idea.
I'm not opposed to it either, especially based off of the fact that we got a Tila and a Evil Lynn casting announcement before we even got Skeletor, it does make me ask the question as to what Skeletor's purpose in this film, or how big of a role he's certainly going to have. So you might be right, Marcelino. Maybe it's not as big of a role as we think it might be in here, or maybe it is an origin story for him. But I don't know. It's like I see potential, but then I am also worried at the same time, because like I said, I do think Jared Leto now has this aura about him of like, hey, Jared Leto's going to be in this movie. Oh, really? Like, and I don't know if that's his fault or just the, like, who's his agent? That's who I would like to ask. And like, what is he seeing in these scripts that make him think these scripts are great and work for him? So we'll see, man. I've really enjoyed a lot of the moves that Travis Knight and Masters of the Universe has made. This is probably the first sort of on the bubble, like, I don't know how I feel about it. But again, we don't know what the script is certainly asking for yet. So let's be open-minded and see what they do with this film. But let us know your guys' thoughts. Jared Leto reported to be Skeletor in Masters of the Universe. Do you believe it? Is he your first choice? Who would you certainly have in mind? What do you think he's going to bring to the role? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stuart, let's wrap up this show with our next segment. I think you know what time it is.
I do indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And it is now time for live viewer questions, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get some music going here too, so we can start this off, wrap up this week's show with your guys' live viewer questions. And if the music is too loud, let me know. I'll adjust it if we need to. Let's go ahead and get this ready and up. All right. So if you guys ever want to go ahead and post a live viewer question, how do you do so? It's pretty easy. Just go over to our YouTube page, as you see right here. Click on that community tab, and every Saturday afternoon or evening, we will in fact post a live viewer question post. So feel free to go ahead and submit that over at any time. And let's go ahead and tackle these, Stuart.
Hell yeah.
Make sure I got everything. Okay. Yeah, and if the music is too loud, y'all let me know. I'll lower it. Marcelino, recently I watched a couple of Arrowverse ranking videos, and almost all of them put Black Lightning at number 5, while Arrow and the Flash are at the top. Legends is above it, and if you're wondering who's last, it's Batwoman. The reason they all gave was that season 1 was the only good season, but afterwards became boring and a chore to watch. They also said it didn't reach the height of Flash and Arrow. What do you say to those people, and what are your thoughts when you hear this? If you're still in the chat, Marcelino, I would like to know how long was the list? Was it a top 10, a top 7? Do you recall? But Arrow and the Flash coming in as the top 2, Black Lightning at 5, Legends clearly at 3 or 4, and Batwoman being last. I am kind of curious as to, when you say last, what number last that is, and what else came before that. What do you think, though, Stuart? The idea of Batwoman coming in last, Black Lightning being placed at number 5, Arrow and the Flash at 1 and 2. I'm trying to think as to like what was 3 and 4 then.
Because Supergirl would have to be like 3 or 4, and then am I missing an Arrowverse show? Unless you count Superman and Lois, which that would be my number 1 personally. But yeah, no, I honestly,
I gotta think Superman and Lois is up there. I gotta think that's probably like 3.
So if they counted that one, then yeah, that would probably be 3. But Batwoman being last on the list honestly is pretty understandable. Like I think season 1 was okay. It had some rough spots. I think the first half of season 2 was really bad, but then I think it got better in the second half. And then season 3 was just fun. I'd say, it's funny if they say that season 1 was the only good season. That's funny because I would say like the only season that was consistently fun was season 3 for me personally. Because I thought like both seasons 1 and 2 were just like such a rocky road, where it's like at least for Batwoman, or at least in season 3 they decided to kind of give up taking themselves seriously and decided to just go, you know what, screw it, we're just having fun now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have a problem if Batwoman is last. This is also coming from a guy who didn't really watch the show very much, so I don't really have too much of a say in it. I am curious, like I would have thought maybe Gotham Knights would have been last on that show, or maybe even Naomi, but again, I don't know how they ranked them or if they even consider them Arrowverse shows at that point, considering how late that they were involved in it. But if anything, the placement would make sense to me just based off of the pushback that the show itself got. Black Lightning at 5 seems fine to me, and I only say that because if Legends comes in at 3 or 4, maybe look, I will say this, I am a little bit surprised that it comes at 5. One, personally, I don't know if I would have put Legends in between there, if that's what he said. He said Legends is above Black Lightning, so they put Legends at 3 or 4. I would say Stargirl should probably be in that 3 or 4 range. Superman and Lois should probably be 3 or 4, honestly, too. Black Lightning I could easily see being 5. For me, I probably would have put Black Lightning at 5. Legends would clearly be a little bit further down on the list for me, just because of the fact that I stopped watching it. So yeah, I am kind of curious as to what their ranking was, because I do think Stargirl was a really well-received series, despite only having a couple of seasons behind it also. I'm trying to see. He says the lists were short. They only rank in the Arrowverse shows Batwoman last as the worst one they mentioned. I mean, for Black Lightning, they say only good season was the first season, while everything else was boring.
That one I would disagree with.
Yeah, I would disagree with that.
I would actually say like season 3 of Black Lightning was probably my favorite. The only one that, and even then, I wouldn't say season 4 was bad. I would just say season 4 was probably my least favorite season out of all of them.
If anything, I would be kind of out of the top 6. Black Lightning is 5. They don't do Superman and Lois or Stargirl. Is they did the list would be out of the top 6. Black Lightning is number 4. Oh, so they only did top 6.
So top 6. Okay, I see. So it would be like second to last. Okay, yeah. So like I personally would disagree with that then, because I would put Black Lightning above Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow.
Me too.
I would say, man, it's funny because if I was ranking it with Arrow and the Flash, I think Arrow and the Flash both have episodes that are like better than most of Black Lightning. But the big thing is that Black Lightning is the most consistent out of the 3 of them.
Yes.
So, because like it never dips in quality, whereas like Arrow and the Flash constantly like are just like going up and then dipping and then going up and dipping. So it's like, it's so hard for me to say which of those 3 I would rank it, but I would just say maybe the Flash number 1, Arrow 2, and then Black Lightning 3rd, only because like I think both Arrow and the Flash just had some episodes that were just so freaking incredible. It just sucks that it doesn't have that consistent quality that Black Lightning did.
So you would put Black Lightning even above something like a Superman and Lois and a Stargirl?
Oh, no. Stargirl and Superman and Lois would be way above the Flash, Arrow, and Black Lightning. I'm just going with the Arrow. Excuse me. Wow. I don't know what that was. I'm just saying, if we're talking specifically shows that take place within the Arrowverse universe, it would be number 3 in that case. But it would be number 5 if we're including Stargirl and Superman and Lois, because those shows are Gotcha. Yeah,
if I included Stargirl and Superman and Lois, then I would probably put Black Lightning at 5. But yeah, to each their own. Everybody's gonna enjoy things differently. So if they liked it, I'm happy for them. If they didn't, I'm sorry you weren't a big fan of it. Number 2, have you ever watched the CGI Beware the Batman cartoon? It was the first Batman cartoon to be serialized and was slowly building up to The Outsiders. It was hated upon initial release due to its focus and use of the C and D list villains instead of the popular A list villains. It's also worth noting this cartoon wasn't affected by the Batman embargo. The writers specifically went out of their way to ignore the popular villains in favor of the lesser known ones. So we got cases like Magpie filling in Catwoman's position and Anarchy filling in Joker's position. Over time, the cartoon has received more praise from being different and having a direction on where they would take the series. Season 2 plans revealed that Batman would have formed the Outsiders with Metamorpho, Man-Bat, Red Arrow, Cyborg, Red Arrow, he already said Red Arrow, Robin, and Nightwing, but with a twist. Robin was going to be Barbara Gordon and Nightwing was going to be Katana. Ooh. And they were slowly building up more popular villains with concept art showing that they had Two-Face and Joker planned. I don't think I've ever watched this CGI Beware the Batman cartoon.
Yeah, I never watched it, but I have been hearing like good things about it. It just,
really,
it's kind of like the Green Lantern CG cartoon. It's like same exact thing. Like I hear it was really good, and I'm sure I would enjoy it if I sat down and watched both of them. I just, haven't gone out of my way to do it quite yet. There's still other like DC cartoons that I also need to watch at some point. Like I've seen some episodes of Batman Brave and the Bold, but I still haven't watched that all the way through, and that's definitely one that I want to do at some point because that show just looks absolutely hilarious.
Brave and the Bold, yeah.
The
YouTuber That Star Wars Girl has opus this bitch, I swear. I'm just
you know her?
I mean, I've seen some of her posts on Twitter. The YouTuber That Star Wars Girl has openly criticized stuff that contains SJW themes, such as Mishu or putting space lesbians in Star Wars, and has openly aligned herself with geeks and gamers. The reason I say this is because a few years ago, her sister went missing and eventually found dead. She then received harassment on social media from people mocking her and her sister's death, but geeks and gamers stepped in, defended her, and called out the people harassing her. She was forever grateful and has called the people of geeks and gamers some of her closest friends, which is why she got so emotional that Zack Snyder called out geeks and gamers for being toxic, because he was essentially demonizing the people who defended her. So with all that said, does this somewhat change your perspective of geeks and gamers a little bit and gives them a little bit of respect, because they might some of the most toxic people on the internet, they did defend her when she received harassment? Fuck no.
Still fucking geeks and gamers, but I mean, that's good what they did for her. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say, oh, they didn't.
Yeah, I'm not trying to diminish that.
Yeah, like that's cool. There's shitty people that did a really good thing. I still loved that moment so much when Zack Snyder was on their show and he just was like,
I missed it. I didn't see that.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. So they had him on Geeks and Gamers. It was like right after the Snyder Cut came out. In fact, I think I made a joke about that when me and Indy were reviewing the Snyder Cut together, where I think I jokingly said, oh, I just wanted to be clear that I'm not affiliated with A+ Hero Report, because that's what happened. He was on the show getting interviewed, and I'm assuming what probably happened is his agents like told him last minute, oh, hey, there's some controversy with Geeks and Gamers or something in that area. And so when he was on it, he just like before anything started, he's like, oh, I just want to make it very clear that I am not associated with Geeks and Gamers in any way, and that I'm a man who has, of course, 2 Asian daughters, and I just want to make sure that we know that, to stop the Asian hate, that kind of thing, because that was like one of the big things going on at the time, is like there was like the uprising in Asian hate at the time. And so I think Geeks and Gamers like were in some small way contributing to that. So that was like, immediately from when the show began, Zack Snyder was like, I am not affiliated with them in any way. And there was just this awkward silence between him and then the people about to interview him. It was, I laughed so hard at that. It was so funny.
So let me just say this to Star Wars Girl and what Geeks and Gamers did for her. Look, I'm thrilled that Geeks and Gamers did that for her. I personally know somebody whose sister, very much like Star Wars Girl, whose sister went missing and was eventually found dead. I went to their funeral. I supported her sister. One of my good friends, Shauna, her sister was raped and killed, if I'm not mistaken, and they found her dead. And so um, I know the emotional turmoil that can bring to somebody and their family, so I don't want to undermine that at all. And the fact that people harassed her on social media and mocked her and stuff, I mean, that's gross. Like, that's just not acceptable for any human being to have to do, because I've seen people that have gone through the loss of their siblings and their kids, and it's, you know, it's absolutely horrific. So the fact that Geeks and Gamers stepped in and defended her and called her out, that's absolutely fantastic of them. But you know what didn't happen to my friend Shauna? She didn't turn into like somebody that bashes LGBTQ or has an issue with SJW themes or has issues with space lesbians, right? Like, she didn't go down this minefield of fucking crazy antics and misogyny and like the racist rants. Like I get that you went through something excruciating and painful, but that doesn't necessarily mean just because somebody reaches out a hand to you that you then sort of blindly follow them and support them through all the shitty antics and the things that they do and talk about. Like, I maybe she got traumatized from that shit, and maybe it put her down the path. Who certainly knows? But I know that everybody, that certain people that go through that type of stuff don't come out the other side of that with that completely crazy batshit mindset that Star Wars girl certainly does. And so, no, I don't have any further sympathy than what I do. Great on them for defending people. That's cool and all. But Geeks and Gamers at the end of the day are, as much as they want to complain about Disney shills, they're very much shills on the other side of things. They're very much grifters on the sense of knowing what works when it comes to a negative algorithm for YouTube and making money off of being absolutely disgusting to groups of people and Lucasfilm and Disney, and are making bunches of money off of that. And so, no, I don't, it doesn't make me view them any differently. Great that they did a great thing, but that doesn't mean automatically blindly supporting some people because they certainly had your back at one point in time. If anything, I would hope that some people would be able to see, like, hey, I appreciate them supporting me, but they're kind of batshit crazy. And so, no, I don't have any more respect for them than I did before, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's just me. But yeah, anyway. I'm just so over these people, bro. Like, I'm really just over these people.
You and me both. And what's man, what I hate so much about YouTube is that I a lot of times will, like, if a video gets recommended to me, I'll press the hide video or don't recommend me this channel kind of a thing. And they keep coming up. Geeks and Gamers, Critical Drinker, Neurotic. It's like I keep pressing don't recommend me this stuff, and then it keeps coming up.
Keeps coming up all the time. I do the same thing, Stuart, especially on my Twitter feed. I'm like, why are you showing me this? Like, I do not care about these people. Like, but that's what YouTube wants to push. That's what sells. That's what brings in the money. So, like, I don't get that people call me a Disney shill. I'm like, where's my check? Can you prove that Disney has given me a check? I'm still living in, I'm still living paycheck to paycheck, bro. But I'm pretty sure you're more than fine over there because, you've decided to turn your fandom into a bunch of hate. And now you're making money off of it. So I got no remorse. I got no feelings for people that want to bitch about what Star Wars has sort of become, when at the end of the day, they're the ones pushing that negative algorithm, and they're making money off of the negativity and the hate, and trying to push false narratives that unfortunately just are not there. I mean, you can not like the stuff that you're watching. But the question I would say is, how many videos have you done discussing the positive aspects and the things that you love about a fandom that you claim to love, compared to how many videos do you make about hating on somebody or hating on a decision, right? Like, when I look and scroll through your video content, am I just going to find a bunch of negativity? And if that's so, why do I want to live in that world? Like, why do I want to surround myself with a bunch of negative thoughts and mind state, and having somebody feel like a victim and make me feel like a victim, like Star Wars is going against me. Like, no, like the fact that people get butthurt sometimes about some of the things that the actors and the producers of shows say, oh look, they called all Star Wars fans misogynist. No. Let's get this straight. Okay. Because they made those comments and I didn't feel no way about it. You know why? Because they ain't talking to me. If you take what some of these people say and you feel some type of way about it,
that says more about you.
Yeah, that says more about you than it does me, my guy. So don't victimize yourself. Don't try and make me feel like I'm part of the problem when I know they ain't talking to me. But people want to stay in their rabbit holes. People want to stay around this negativity, and people that just like believe the same things that they believe and don't want to get out of their bubble and understand that there's a much more to this fandom than people can truly ever understand. And so the fact that they are just as much a grifter as maybe some of these Disney shills and don't necessarily see that themselves, or they do see it, I just think they're being intellectually dishonest with people and want to create these negative sort of these negative headlines about things. I just got no remorse and sympathies for these people. I don't care what good deeds they've done in their lives. They're grifting off of making you hate a franchise that you love. So I got no respect for that.
And always for like the wrong reasons too,
Yeah,
I always think of like the Morbius meme of what if I told you yada yada yada. Just want to make that meme of what if I told you you can critique a show without constantly complaining about the fact that the lead character is a woman or a person of color.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like the fact that that's your focus says a lot more about you than it does me as a watcher. So anyway, what else we got here? Peg C, got a couple questions. Will you start covering more Super Sentai news on Hero Report since no one knows what the future holds for Power Ranger franchise? Probably not. I mean, I was doing Boom Boomger, but just doing it weekly for like 40 plus weeks, man, is a lot, bro. It just reminded me as to like how much of I don't want to say a chore, but just how much heavy lifting that really is to constantly have a show for like 40 something weeks to talk about straight. And maybe sometimes too, it's just the season itself. While I enjoyed Boom Boomger, it eventually got to the point to where like I don't necessarily know if I was super hyped to coming back to it each and every week. Like it was just an okay series for me. I enjoyed aspects of it, but it was just an okay series for me. Maybe it is something that I review again, but yeah, I don't know how much Super Sentai news we'll be talking about. What's your fondest memories of James Earl Jones? Believe it or not, there are I know a lot of people will say Star Wars. I'm a big fan of his role in The Sandlot, even though it's minimal. I loved finding out that he was the neighbor across the fence that had the dog and all the all the baseballs that went over his fence. And when the kids finally went over there to get it, they were like, why didn't you just ask for it? Like, why didn't you just come over and ask for it? I thought it was great. That, and there's always a clip that I see of James Earl Jones. I don't know if this was from the 60s or 70s, but he was on a Broadway show. I think it was called Fences.
Oh yeah.
He's got a great monologue to his son. Something about like, he's like, I don't gotta love you, but I gotta. He's like, I don't gotta love you, but I gotta.
Oh no,
you.
it was. Where does it say I have to like you? I can love you, but it doesn't mean I have to like you.
Yeah, yeah. It was just something super impactful. And it just showed like, just the presence that James Earl Jones brings. One, how intimidating I would probably be to ever be his son. Just because, God damn, it made me piss my pants in that dialogue, but. I don't know. It just to me, it just goes to show you not only his range, but the gravitas that he had whenever he was on screen and really in anything that he did. So yeah, he's definitely going to be missed for sure.
Yeah, I love it. He's played two of the worst dads and one of the best dads ever. You know, Darth Vader. I totally forgot the dad's name from Fences, but you know, the dad from Fences. But then he's also played Mufasa. You know.
Let's see here. If Stan Lee was successful in adapting Super Sentai, do you think we would even have Power Rangers?
Oh, I see what you mean. Because like there was a period of time where Stan Lee had a very similar idea to what Saban did. I think this would have changed the course of Super Sentai if Stan Lee adapted it and it was successful. I think Sentai may have actually been trying to do more deals with Marvel down the line. And so they're one team that was basically like kind of the international Super Sentai, where one of the characters was called like Miss America, and she was meant to be kind of like similar to Captain America. And the whole team was meant to be kind of like similar to the Avengers. I think they would have been a more direct adaptation of the Avengers. And that would have been kind of like the future of Sentai, is that we would have had a lot more adaptations of Marvel comic books, and then very possible Marvel would have been adapting some Super Sentai stuff into their comics, so there would have been probably more crossover going on, so more shows like Spider-Man, you know, like the Japanese Spider-Man series. So I think we would have been looking at a very different future for both franchises. I don't think we would have gotten Power Rangers.
Wow, I love your perspective on that for sure. Pexy, I know you got a couple other questions, but I do want to keep it to at least 3 questions a piece, just to be able to get to everybody else. So if we have some time, maybe I'll get to the other ones. If not, maybe next week. Blossom, have you seen the new Kamen Rider yet? Personally, the new driver they have is kind of creeps me out a bit. I have not seen the new Kamen Rider yet, although I think somebody might have mentioned it to, was it Geets or something like that? Last week or the week before. I can't remember if I pulled up an image of it or not, but I have not seen the new driver or really like any footage from the new Kamen Rider yet, so I'm not sure. Remember when I said it would be funny if Toei had villains modeled after both Mr. Burns as well as Smithers? How'd it be if that Burns-like character was a snake, since Burns has a snake-like body? He is kind of a skinny guy, ain't he?
Yeah, no, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
And then whenever he does like the excellent Smithers, his tongue would like slide out. Excellent.
I love it. All right, AJ, these paragraphs are becoming longer and longer, bro. Let's tighten this up a little bit, okay? The return of A squad. I say A- squad. The return of the A squad Rangers was the best pilot twist in SPD. For beginning of the season, the brief introduction of a rival team of Rangers who were initially presented as superior and more elite added a fresh dynamic to the show. The A Squad ultimately revealed as traitors near the end of the series. Working with the villainous Emperor Grum was a genius twist that raised the stakes and created tension between the main B Squad team. The exploration of themes like loyalty, trust, and the blurred lines between good and evil made a compelling plot. The A Squad Rangers also served as foils to the B Rangers, highlighting their own strengths and weaknesses. The contrast between the two teams' approaches and values added depth to the narrative, making A Squad arc a memorable and impactful part of the series. The actors' performances, particularly Charlie, the Red A Squad player, played by Gina Varela, brought so much attention to her team, making their betrayal even more believable and shocking. The fact that she and her team betrayed Earth and destroyed another planet in order to join the side of evil was a huge surprise and was a great follow-up to their disappearance from the 4th episode, Walls. While I do wish we had a few episodes of their return before the 2-part series finale, like perhaps a backstory to Charlie and her team joining SPD and becoming Rangers, I do feel them being revealed as traitors during the finale was a bold move. I've always had the feeling that the A Squad were never brainwashed by Grum nor put under a spell like all past evil Rangers, but instead they were simply manipulated by the desire to be on a #1 team to gain power and be the best of the best. Perhaps Grum showed them illusions of being the ultimate team of Rangers on planet Earth. Commander Kruger's line in Endings Part 1 after being captured by them and sent to Grum, all those years of training and you have learned nothing, implied that while that they were the best team that Kruger had taught, didn't mean that they were perfect nor always cooperated with his teachings. Overall, the A Squad storyline was a huge highlight of SPD, showcasing the series' ability to craft engaging, complex stories that keep viewers invested in the characters and their journeys. Having Charlie be the first on-screen female Red Ranger, though Eva was a great addition to Power Rangers franchise and paved the way for Lauren and Amelia to be female Rangers for the side of good. Sky and Jack, stunned that Red was a girl, was great behind the scenes follow up to episode 4. Charlie's voice initially sounded like a male, but was actually modulated during post-production to sound like a man. Was clever way for executive producers to make A Squad Red be a woman after Disney refused to allow a female to be a Red Ranger. Greg himself had said many times at conventions that while he was very pleased to have a woman be a Red Ranger, it did suck for fans that she had to be evil for it to happen just to get through to Disney. The line where Sky and Jack said, "You're a girl, Red's a girl," then both Sid and Elizabeth said, "Right on," then high-fiving each other after Charlie demorph was absolutely priceless. How do you feel about the A Squad in SPD in general? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Agree with everything you said. I love the fact that they weren't brainwashed, the fact that they left on their own volition because, you know, they just preferred basically slavery over destruction. And I can't remember if that's how they worded it, but basically they wanted to be on the winning team, and that's why they joined Grum, which I thought was, you know, it was interesting because, you know, we've had this team like hyped up to us for so long, and while they definitely lived up to that hype with skill, as we see like through their fight with the B team, yeah, definitely not in terms of like what it really takes, you know, to have the heart of a Ranger, as we see, because, you know, them being willing to give up so easily just to save their own butts. Yeah, you know, I think that made for like a perfect antagonist for our main characters to have to fight at the end. And then I also love how this was hinted at from their first like appearance in the show, because the very first appearance you had oh God, what's his name? The Green Ranger. He immediately, because he's you know, an empath, he's able to sense things about people. He immediately was able to sense that something was off about their energy. And I love that. That was hinted at that early on in the show. And then it's not until like the season finale where we get the reveal of, oh, yep, this, because they are currently working for Grum. And yeah, I do think it's like, it sucks like with Disney, you know, the fact that Disney was only okay with having a woman as a Red Ranger because Bridge, that was his name. Thank you, Marcelino. It sucks that, yeah, Disney was only okay with it because they were evil. And it almost like kind of seems like the Disney CEO at the time was like, oh, you know what? If anything, this should be a message of why women shouldn't be the Red Ranger, because if they do, their team will become evil. Like I could see Disney having that like mindset at the time. But yeah, so, you know, all that to be said, I thought it was an awesome storyline. Yeah. Oh, you're muted.
What do you think of Jack's true feelings was when he saw that girl was the Red Ranger? I'd like to believe that he was truly all right with that being the case.
Oh yeah, I think he was just surprised.
Yeah,
because at that point, I like to think that Jack was like, you know, evolved enough at that point, you know, compared to like in the first episode. How would you feel if I put hey, I'm so bad with names with Power Ranger, sorry, but the Pink Ranger, I forgot her name, but like when Kruger asked him, how would you feel
is that
if
Sid?
I put Sid? Yeah, I think so. Oh, sorry, no, it wasn't Jack. My bad. It was Sky who he asked that to, and then Sky was like, I couldn't follow Sid into battle. She's a girl. And then by the end of the season, I do love, like, you know, when Kruger asks him the same question, he's like, I would trust anyone you would appoint as leader to lead us in battle.
Nice.
Yeah. Great development in that show.
Sam, if Steve Wang was originally going to another season after Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, he will choose between. Hold on. If Steve Wang was originally going to another season, in 2010 after Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, he will choose between Phase or Kabuto, and in my opinion, he will pick Kabuto and be amazing for third season.
I haven't seen either of those,
Neither.
but yeah, no, I would. Oh my gosh, if they continued, like, if they were to do like kind of a return to Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, and they wanted to use like stock footage from another Kamen Rider series, I would say they could easily use Sabers, since some of the designs definitely feel like they could fit in that same world as Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. So that's the one I would want him to adapt. But obviously, if this was 2010, it would have to be whatever was available at the time.
What if Super Sentai Live Man adaptation? It will be prequel season to Zordon era. Interesting.
What was the Live Men? I forgot.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up also. Was that the season just before the maybe? I do like the costume designs though.
Oh, this one. Okay. What's that?
This feels very much like
no, this was way
like
before.
the Zoosier. That's what it reminds me of. It was like Zoosier a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they have 3 Rangers to begin with, huh? Was it always 3? Or did they eventually expand to 6? Or at least I'm just seeing like 3 in the poster that I'm looking at right now. But I do wonder if they expanded to 5.
They probably expand to 5 later, because the one I'm looking at has 5.
Okay.
But yeah, okay, this one. So this one came out 4 years before Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and if I'm not mistaken, this was the show that Saban saw that actually inspired him to come up with the idea for Power Rangers.
Gotcha. Marcelino says, from all the Super Sentai seasons I've seen so far, Live Man is my favorite.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting one. I'd be down for it. I just don't, I don't expect to ever see them do it though. But it's a cool concept though, Sam.
You would, oh my gosh, you would either have to get like a really old camera, or you'd have to get like filters on it, because it would look so weird if you go from like, the old school kind of like pixely, like grainy, like Super Sentai, to like suddenly shifting into like HD crisp quality.
Jessica, what's up, Jessica? What do you think of, man, my voice is going hoarse, I can tell already. What do you think of the future of Power Rangers will be? And do you think we will see Aang and Katara's love story in the second season of The Last Airbender? What do you think about that last part, Aang and Katara's love story? Do you think we see that?
If they're gonna follow it kind of the way it happened in the show, there will definitely be some more hints at it, breadcrumbs, but the relationship didn't really like take off until season 3. In fact, I think that was always the one thing I kind of think they should do a little differently in this show, because it's actually one of the few things that they I don't want to say failed at, but it definitely could have been written so much better in the original show. Give us a little breadcrumbs to show Katara having feelings for Aang, because that was like, okay, so like Avatar Last Airbender, obviously they end up together, because that's exactly what you expect. But to me, it was weird only because throughout the entire series, Katara showed no romantic feelings for Aang, really? At all throughout the entire series. Aang definitely had romantic feelings for her. So when they got together at the end, it just, I don't know. To me, it just kind of felt like, really? Okay. Like, I didn't hate it. I just didn't feel like it was really built up like the way they should have. So I think that if they're smart with season 2, they'll show breadcrumbs on both sides and not just have like Aang being the one crushing over her, but maybe her crushing over Aang subtly.
As far as the first half of the question, what do you think of the future of Power Rangers will be? I really don't know, Jessica, at this point. I've got little to no anticipation level for anything Power Rangers related, if I'm being honest with you, when it comes to the television and movie side of things. I don't think my anticipation level or excitement for Power Rangers will be hopeful until Hasbro sells the property again. I'm just being honest. If they're truly trying to pitch and just sell a remake of MMPR, that's really not what I was hoping for, in the sense of envisioning anything Power Ranger related for the future. So I'm kind of out on Power Rangers right now, unless Hasbro gives up the rights to it.
Or unless they actually announce something that they plan
Something
to do with
different.
it.
Yeah, unless they make, change course or something. But other than that, I have no idea. Doomsday, besides Dino Thunder, which season do you think pulled off high school theme well?
How many took place in high school besides Mighty Morphin and Dino Thunder? Let's see. Trying to think, because there was Ninja Steel was also high school, but oh my gosh, that not the best, not my favorite season personally. Mega Force also was in high school, not my favorite season. Man, I didn't expect a question like this to be so hard. I guess I have to go with Mighty Morphin. Because even though I don't think they tackled the high school aspect in like kind of a more realistic kind of way, whereas like Dino Thunder tried to be, I don't know if realistic is the right term, but they try to like somewhat have the kids like actually acting like high schoolers compared to like Mighty Morphin, where they're all like pure paragons basically. So I give Dino Thunder credit for that, but I also understand like what they were going for with Mighty Morphin was a lot different. They weren't going for relatability; they were going more for like characters for kids to look up to, and so I think they pulled that off. But yeah, I think that would probably be my pick.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Sarav says I would say Dino Fury with Izzy did it well.
That is true. They did have that one episode relating to her about like how she just kind of like learns differently than others, and that was definitely an episode that I could relate to for sure. So I guess that would count.
I can't remember if Ninja Storm had any high school moments in it, but I remember them as kids like being as high schoolish as I can remember. Like just the things that they did on a regular basis sort of thing just reminded me of high school kids. But I don't really recall like school functions, or it's like set pieces of them being at school. So I don't know. I think from a kid's perspective, though, personality wise, I don't know why Ninja Storm screams out to me a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Brendan Mejia made the right choice of having his character Tyler be all energetic and adventurous? Because the directors told him to show less emotions and be a typical Red Ranger, but I feel like it was very jarring if Tyler was all robotic out of suit, but then suddenly when morphed, his body would suddenly be energetic and somewhat childlike. I mean, first off, the idea that a director will tell you to be less emotional and be your typical Red Ranger, like what the fuck is a typical Red Ranger? Like if the idea of a typical Red Ranger is Troy, the fuck out of here. No, I don't want that to be my typical Red Ranger. I want my Red Ranger to have some personality. So I'm kind of glad that he didn't show less emotion. I like him. I like Tyler as a character.
Same. Yeah, I heard this before that Saban didn't like the performance that Tyler gave, that he wanted something more like, in line with Troy from the previous season. I'm so glad Tyler did not take that into account and gave his own thing because, you look at Jaden, you look at Troy, you look at, what was the character's name from Ninja Steel again? The Red Ranger from Ninja Steel.
Brody?
Brody. Like all
was
four.
It Brody? Yeah,
it was Brody, right? Yeah. Those three characters have nothing that distinguishes them like from each other. Like they are all the same exact character, despite having completely different backstories. They all like, if you were to give me a script or a line from one of them, I had to guess which of the three said this line, I would lose every time because they are all three the same character. Tyler gave a performance that like stood out, and the fact that like they didn't want him to give that performance, it just shows how much Saban just really didn't know what he was doing with the Power Rangers franchise.
He also says, what do you think is the coldest line in the whole MCU? So I picked up, I Googled very best Avengers quotes from the MCU. There's a top 10 list. That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry is number 10. I love you 3000 is number 9. Because if we can't protect Earth, you can be damn sure we'll avenge it. It's number 8. I can do this all day. Number 7. If we're gonna win this fight, some of us might have to lose it. Is number 6. Number 5 says, you get hurt them back. You get killed, walk it off. That's a Captain America line. Number 4, whatever it takes. Number 3, the city is flying and we're fighting an army of robots and I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense. That's number 3. Number 2, I still believe in heroes. And number 1, Avengers Assemble. That's gotta be the coldest line, right?
Yeah.
The fact that they literally made us wait 3 movies before, hell, 4 movies before we actually got that line.
Mm-hmm. Instead of like, Avengers 2, Avengers.
Oh God, yeah, that drove me crazy. I totally thought he was gonna say it.
Oh my gosh,
I'm sure there's quite a few though. That's just one website that I found though.
Yeah, it sucks because like I feel like whenever I have to think of like something like that on the spot, it's like I can't think of it at the time, but I'm sure like later on down the line, I'm going to be watching a Marvel movie and going, "That's the line. That's the line I should have mentioned before."
Yeah, there's so many good ones for sure.
Yeah. Oh God, there are.
I do like I Had a Date from First Avengers. That left me with some chills and goosebumps at the idea of like that being the first thing that Steve Rogers thinks about when he wakes up and he finds himself like in this other world, like how much time has passed, where's Peggy? That hits me every time I hear him say I had a date.
Mm-hmm. I also, even though it's not like a MCU specific line, I just love the way it was delivered so much, but I loved it when Aunt May gave the famous line of "with great power comes great responsibility," right before passing away, just like Uncle Ben. Absolutely loved that whole moment.
I can't remember. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. And then I'm just like now remembering that there were like so many great quotes from Deadpool and Wolverine. If you could hear the look on my face, you would smell how sad I am.
I love it. But yeah, there's a ton, guys. There's a ton. But yeah, guys, if you have a particular quotable from the MCU, certainly go ahead and let us know. There was one more here too. Let me see if I can breeze through this. Oh, I didn't mean to drop this. Hold on a second. We are going a little bit over, but I'll breeze through this because we got the most talented man in the world. Real quick. So Rob says, I am Iron Man.
Yes.
X-Men The Last Stand is often considered the most underrated X-Men film, and for good reason. While it received mixed reviews upon release, it gained a cult following over the years. Really? The Last Stand?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm learning something new today. Complex plot. The film delves into the Phoenix Force storyline, exploring themes of power, control, and sacrifice. This intricate plot might have overwhelmed some viewers, but it offers a unique and thought-provoking take on the X-Men universe. I probably will have to go ahead and rewatch this movie now because it's been years, but I didn't care for it the several times I watched it before. Strong performances. The ensemble cast delivers solid performances with Hugh Jackman portrayals of Wolverine and Ian McKellen's Magneto standing out. Mm-hmm. Visually stunning action sequences. The film features some of the most visually and impressive action sequences, particularly the final battle with X-Men and the Brotherhood. While the film's pacing and central plot points have been criticized, it remains a significant entry into the X-Men series that deserves more appreciation. I will say I did like the visual of Logan trying to approach Jean, and you could see like the skin and stuff of him kind of shedding as he's getting closer and closer. I thought that was visually pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a great scene. I also did love that one moment where Magneto is, of course, rallying together all the other mutants, and one of them is like, "If you're a mutant, then where are your tattoos?" And then he kind of like pulls his sleeves up, revealing like the tattoos that he got from like the number that he got from the concentration camp. And yeah, he's just like, "This is the only tattoo that I will ever have." And I'm like, oh damn. Because you know, I love how this show or how the X-Men movies, love to remind you, yeah, Magneto's evil, but he has been through some shit.
Yeah, he's been through some shit. He also says another X-Men film I find that's underrated is The Wolverine, the 2013 film. What sets up, I do agree, I will agree with that one. What sets it apart is a unique blend of action, drama, and character development. The film takes place after the events of The Last Stand and follows Wolverine as he travels to Japan to confront his troubled past. The movies focus on Wolverine's inner turmoil and his relationships with others, make it a compelling watch. While some critics noted that the story is somewhat generic, the film's strengths lie in what's well-crafted fight scenes, stunning visuals, and Hugh Jackman's performance. The Wolverine laid the groundwork for Mangold's critical acclaimed Logan, which is widely regarded as one of the best superhero films of all time. Overall, The Wolverine is an underrated gem, and it deserves more recognition. What were some films you thought were underrated? Probably The Wolverine is a good one. I think if we're talking about X-Men films, I also think if we're talking about just X-Men films, I don't think First Class gets as much love as it deserves. I have heard people that have enjoyed it, but I don't think people talk about First Class as much as they probably should, to be honest with you.
I should probably rewatch X-Men 3 at some point because it wasn't my favorite personally, but I do agree with the Wolverine from 2013. That movie was just a lot of fun, you know. Doesn't hit as hard as like Logan, but that's because like Logan's like kind of a masterpiece. But this is just a really fun action movie. So I love the 2013 Wolverine movie. But I'd say for me, Logan's like my favorite of that Fox era of X-Men movies. But my favorite X-Men movie though, Days of Future Past. Like that is one that I will watch over and over again, despite its one, I don't want to call it a plot hole, but slight kind of flaw at the end. But besides that one, like kind of small flaw, I think that everything else about the movie is like borderline freaking perfect. And not to mention that ending moment between Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. Oh my gosh, it gets me choked up every time.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great film. But yeah, guys, that will do it for all of our live viewer questions today. So thank you everybody who certainly participated. As always, we always appreciate getting your guys' opinions and questions and thoughts on everything. So thank you guys so much. We had some great viewership here today. Guys, do us a big favor. Again, if you're still watching us live, if you haven't hit that like button, please go ahead and do so. If you continue to like our content on a weekly basis, subscribe to the channel, please, if you'd like to. We're almost at 1,500 subscribers. Hopefully that's something that we can hit by the end of the year. So if you want to share these videos, let people know about this channel, please certainly go ahead and do so. We got other shows coming to you guys soon here. We got Agatha All Along. The Penguin certainly starts this week also. And then I think in October or November, I should say, we got Dune Prophecy and a bunch of other movies certainly headed our way as well. So certainly go ahead and subscribe to the channel, guys. Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, man, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Twitter and on Letterboxd.
And if you want to find us on social media, everywhere down below at A+ Opinions, everywhere on social media. Definitely follow us not only on our YouTube page, but definitely our Facebook page also. That's where we drop all the news throughout the week. Keep you posted on any news that happens, trailers that drop, posters, exclusive images. And then at the end of the week, we take 6 topics from our Facebook page and discuss them here with you guys. If you have a TikTok, we're also at TikTok at Hero Report. Follow us there as well. And then again, everywhere else on social media at A+ Opinions. But that will certainly do it for us here, ladies and gentlemen. We definitely will have our Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, episode 5 review up for you guys here within the next day or two. So look out for that and other reviews headed to you guys later on this week. But other than that, that's going to do it for us here. So in the meantime, do us a big favor. As always, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.